Chapter 1148. After reading Xiao Han's letter, Ji Tianqing put it away and looked relieved. Fortunately, the Xiao clan's patriarch is in the Xiao clan and Xiao Han is willing to help me. Soon, I will be able to see the Xiao clan's patriarch and verify my speculation. Xiao Han had told him in Wuxia City that the Xiao clan was very far away from Zhongzhou and was hidden in a hidden forbidden area. He also mentioned in the letter that the Xiao clan would be holding the Holy Fire Festival in a month's time. Although Ji Tianqing didn't know what kind of festival the Holy Fire Festival was for the time being. However, Xiao Han's tone was solemn. This festival was obviously a very important celebration for the Xiao clan. Ji Tianqing calculated in his heart. It will take at least half a month to reach the Xiao clan from Zhongzhou. Xiao Han will be leaving for the Xiao clan in 2 days. I have to pack up and prepare to go to the Xiao clan with him. After making up his mind, he got up and left Tianqing Palace for Yunyao Palace. Before he left, he had to say goodbye to Yunyao. Half an hour later, he entered Yunyao Palace and saw Yunyao in the study room. Yunyao was reading a book in the study room. She was reading the books written by the God Masters in the monarch residence. These books recorded many methods and cultivation experiences for condensing the divine soul and breaking through to the soul-tempering realm. Ji Tianqing glanced at the names of the books and guessed what Yunyao was thinking. She must be preparing to break through to the soul-tempering realm. After entering the study room, he called out, "Yao Yao." Yunyao was awakened by him. She quickly put down the ancient book in her hand and turned to look at him. She nodded and said, "Tianqing, you are here. Is there anything I can help you with?" Ji Tianqing nodded and walked to her side. He sat down and said, "Yao Yao, I will be leaving the monarch residence tomorrow to do something important." Yunyao nodded slightly and asked with concern, "How long will you be away for this time? Will it be dangerous? How about I go with you?" Ji Tianqing smiled and waved his hand. "Don't worry, there's no danger. I'm just going to a place to meet a person and confirm a matter. My departure this time will take about 2 months. I'll leave you 3 jade slips. If you have any urgent matters, just send me a message." After saying that, he took out 3 jade slips from his interspatial ring and handed them to Yunyao. Yunyao received the jade slip and put it into her interspatial ring. Then, she said, "Tianqing, you can set your mind at ease and attend to your matters. Go and come back early. It just so happens that my strength has reached a bottleneck. I'm preparing to enter secluded cultivation for a few months to break through the shackles of the soul-refining realm. If everything goes smoothly, I'll probably be able to break through to the soul refinement realm by the time you return." Ji Tianqing revealed a gratified smile and nodded. "I believe in you. You will break through smoothly." The two sat in the study for a while and chatted for a while before Ji Tianqing bid farewell and left. He didn't have anything to pack and directly left the monarch mansion. He flew over the sky of Zhongzhou City and rushed toward Wuxia City. Several hours later, he was flying thousands of meters high in the sky. At this time, Qian Yu's voice sounded in his mind. "Old Ji, where are we going?" Ji Tianqing was startled. With a thought, he opened the entrance to the sword world and let Qian Yu fly out. Whoosh! An icy blue light flashed and Qian Yu flew out of the sword world and appeared in the sky. It carried Ji Tianqing on its back and soared through the sky. Ji Tianqing revealed a smile and said, "I'm going to Wuxia City to find Divine General Donglin to do something." "Qian Yu, why didn't you stay in the sword world and cultivate? What are you doing out here?" Qian Yu shook its head and said in a depressed tone, "It's been almost a year. The little black dragon and I have been cultivating in seclusion in the sword world and are about to die of boredom. The Jinshan King and Yi De have been busy all day exploring new territories, cultivating ore veins, and forging weapons in all kinds of different ways. I don't know what stimulated the little black dragon, but it only knows how to cultivate in seclusion and doesn't play with me anymore. I'm bored in there, so I came out to get some fresh air. Ji Tianqing patted its head and said with a smile, the earth spirit's greatest wish is to have a peaceful place with abundant ore veins for them to rest and recuperate. The sword world is their ideal home, so of course they are busy cultivating ore veins and forging weapons. As for the little black dragon, it must have been stimulated in the Eastern Sea. That big black dragon called Long Yuan imparted many cultivation experiences and secret techniques to the little black dragon, which is of great help to it. The little black dragon has been working hard for the past year, so it must want to master the secret technique and reach the spirit refining stage as soon as possible. Speaking of this, he showed a bitter smile and said, the earth spirit has been working hard, recuperating, and growing stronger. The little black dragon has also been working hard. It has reached the 5th level of Sky Origin stage, and its strength has been increasing rapidly. You are the only one who is still as lazy as before, not working hard at cultivation. You should learn more from the little black dragon. Xian Yu curled his lips in dissatisfaction, I don't want to be like the little black dragon, so dull and boring. Plus, I am the noble king of spirit beasts, with extraordinary talent and natural talent. Even if I don't cultivate, I am still stronger than them. The little black dragon is only at the 5th level of Sky Origin stage, and I am at the 6th level. Old Ji, why don't you praise me? In any case, Ji Tianqing was in a hurry and had nothing to do, so he chatted with Qian Yu and said sincerely, Qian Yu, it is true that your talent is higher than the little black dragon's. But you can't waste your great aptitude and talent like this, wasting your time like this, wasting your time. With such extraordinary talent, if you are as diligent as the little black dragon, you will reach the spirit refining stage soon, won't you? How about this? I will set a goal for the two of you. Whoever reaches the spirit refining stage first will be able to stay by my side. If you don't reach the spirit refining stage, you will stay in the sword world and cultivate. You are not allowed to come out. Qian Yu's face was filled with grievance and anger. He snorted coldly and said, Humph. Old Ji, you know that I am a carefree little heavenly fox who loves freedom, yet you use such a vicious punishment on me. You heartless guy, you only know how to side with the little black dragon. Ji Tianqing rolled his eyes, don't play the pitiful with me. I am doing this for your own good. No bargaining. With that, he flipped his hand and a white light appeared, opening the entrance to the sword world. Qian Yu was unable to resist and was directly sucked into the sword world. Qian Yu was filled with helplessness and depression. He could only return to the peaceful Earth City and disturb the little black dragon who was cultivating in seclusion. Before they knew it, 5 days had passed. Chapter 1149. When Ji Tianqing entered Wuxia City, Xiao Han was already waiting for him in the city lord's mansion. After the two met in the city lord's mansion's guest hall, they exchanged some pleasantries before sitting down to chat. 10 days ago, Xiao Han received a reply from the Xiao clan and sent a secret letter to Ji Tianqing. After settling the military affairs in the Eastern Sea, he rushed back to Wuxia City to wait for Ji Tianqing's arrival. The two agreed on the date and decided to depart for the Xiao clan early in the morning. Ji Tianqing was puzzled and asked Xiao Han, Sir Divine General, we will be heading to the Xiao clan tomorrow. Can Sir Divine General please tell me where the Xiao clan is? Xiao Han revealed a meaningful smile and transmitted his voice, you will know tomorrow anyway, so there's no harm in telling you. The Xiao clan is actually hidden in the most dangerous forbidden area on the continent, in the depths of the Southern Desolation Swamp. Very few people dare to enter the Southern Desolation Swamp as it is too dangerous. Those who enter rashly will most likely lose their lives. Moreover, the Xiao clan is in a grotto heaven and the entrance is very well hidden. Even if ordinary people know where the Xiao clan is, they won't be able to find the entrance, let alone enter. Ji Tianqing finally understood and nodded. Everyone thinks that the Southern Desolation Swamp is a land of God's punishment with endless dangers hidden in it. No one lives there. No one expected the Shao clan to live in seclusion in the southern desolation swamp. No wonder they can live in seclusion for thousands of years. The Shao clan dares to live in seclusion in the southern desolation swamp. This shows the courage, determination, and means of the Shao clan's patriarch. They are all extraordinary. Young Master Ji, you flatter me. Shao Han said modestly. There are still 20 days before the Holy Fire Festival. With our speed, we will be just in time to return to the Shao clan. Ji Tianqing quickly asked, Sir Divine General, can you explain what the Holy Fire Festival is? I would like to know more about this festival so that there won't be any misunderstandings. Well, that's good too. Shao Han thought for a while and explained, the Holy Fire Festival is a grand celebration held once every 20 years in the Shao clan. This festival would last for 3 days. Sacred flames would be lit all over the clan, and they would not be extinguished for 3 days and 3 nights. During the Holy Fire Festival, the new generation of Shao clan's disciples would be tested by the clan. Only the top 2 that passed the test were qualified to leave the Shao clan and venture into the Tianxian land. The disciples of the Shao clan who failed to obtain the top 2 positions could only wait for the next Holy Fire Festival 20 years later. If the disciples of the Shao clan were still unable to obtain the top 2 positions in the second Holy Fire Festival, they would have to stay in the Shao clan forever and reproduce until they died of old age. Every disciple of the Shao clan had 2 chances to leave, but only the most outstanding disciples could head to the outside world. At the same time, the Holy Fire Festival was also a celebration for young men and women to court each other. Boys and girls who expressed their love in public during the Holy Fire Festival and receive a response will receive the blessings of the entire clan. After listening to Shao Han's explanation, Ji Tianqing couldn't help but reveal a smile. It sounds rather interesting. Not only can it allow the Shao clan to maintain peace and friendship, it can also motivate the younger generation. It seems like this Holy Fire Festival is of great significance to the Shao clan. Of course. Shao Han nodded and said, other than the Shao clan's patriarch's birthday every 100 years, the Holy Fire Festival is the grandest festival. This time, I used the Holy Fire Festival as an opportunity to find an excuse that the elders couldn't reject. I want to witness the test process with my own eyes and bring out the 2 most outstanding disciples of the Shao clan to train under me. Ji Tianqing's eyes couldn't help but light up. He smiled and said, this excuse is indeed hard for the Shao clan to reject. After all, you are the Donglin Divine General, one of the most respected figures in the continent. If the 2 inexperienced disciples of the Shao clan could receive your guidance and nurture, it would be a great blessing and opportunity. I'm afraid all the young disciples would dream of it. Shao Han smiled and nodded. That's right. I used this excuse to get the elders to agree to let me bring you into the Shao clan. However, the Shao clan's rules are there, and the elders can't openly violate them. I can bring you into the Shao clan, but you have to suffer some grievances to cover up this matter. Ji Tianqing was already mentally prepared. He asked, Sir Divine General, may I ask what I need to do? Shao Han looked at him deeply and asked tentatively, you have to pretend to be a disciple of the Shao clan and use the identity of my nephew to follow me into the Shao clan. Of course, I don't mean to take advantage of you. This is just an expedient measure. Everyone knows about it. Ji Tianqing thought for a while and agreed readily. Sir Divine General, you are too polite. You are a senior who has lived for more than 100 years and is also the Divine General who guards the Eastern Sea. I am your junior, and it is reasonable for me to call you uncle. There is no grievance. Seeing him agree so readily, the last trace of worry in Shao Han's heart disappeared. He quickly smiled and nodded. Since young Master Ji is so righteous, then I am relieved. You can rest in the city lord's mansion today. Tomorrow morning, we will leave for the southern wasteland swamp. Okay. Ji Tianqing nodded and went to rest under the guidance of the housekeeper. A day passed by quickly. Early in the morning of the second day, Ji Tianqing left the city lord's mansion with Xiao Han. The two of them flew up to the sky and rushed to the south as fast as lightning. The distance from the central continent to the southern wasteland swamp was too far. A year ago, Ji Tianqing was only at the 8th level of the sky origin stage. It took him 3 months to reach the southern wasteland city from the central continent. But it was different now. He and Xiao Han were both powerhouses of the soul refining stage. Their speed was several times faster than before. Xiao Han was driving a flying magic weapon. It was a black flying boat of the soul level. It was like a stream of light cutting through the sky, as fast as lightning. Ji Tianqing was standing on a blazing white soul magic sword. He was like a white light, flying side by side with Xiao Han. In fact, he was as fast as Xiao Han with only 50% of his strength. If he drove the soul magic sword with all his strength, he would be twice as fast as Xiao Han. The two of them flew all the way and didn't encounter any danger or trouble. About 14 days later, the two of them had crossed more than half of the southern continent and arrived at the southern wasteland city. The long journey and flying had consumed a lot of their magic power. Both of them looked travel-worn and fatigued. The two of them prepared to enter the southern wasteland city and rest for the night. They would continue their journey tomorrow morning. It was evening, and the sun hadn't completely set yet. However, when the two of them were 100 miles away from the southern wasteland city, they saw that the sky was dark. On the vast grassland outside the southern wasteland city, there were countless huge figures, flying as fast as the wind, attacking the southern wasteland city. Even in the sky around the southern wasteland city, there were tens of thousands of birds and black figures, covering the sky and covering the sun. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianqing was stunned for a moment before he reacted. Chapter 1150. A year ago, when Ji Tianqing came to southern wasteland city for the first time, he had heard about the beast tide. The so-called beast tide was when a large number of demon beasts rushed out of the southern wasteland swamp at a specific time and attacked the surrounding cities and towns. Countless demon beasts and birds covered the sky like a tide, wantonly destroying the cities and slaughtering the civilians. Although Ji Tianqing did not encounter such a thing at that time, he had paid attention to the information about the beast tide. He knew that there would be a beast tide in southern wasteland city every 2 years, but the specific time was not fixed. Every time a beast tide broke out, it would bring great destruction to southern wasteland city, causing the deaths of countless warriors and civilians. After a beast tide, southern wasteland city would be in a mess, with corpses everywhere and rivers of blood. But the civilians of southern wasteland city resisted the beast tide tenaciously, wiped away their blood and tears, cleaned up the city, and continued to live a strong life. Ji Tianqing did not expect that he would not encounter a beast tide outbreak a year ago, but today he happened to encounter one. As a divine general, Xiao Han was naturally experienced and knowledgeable, and he knew what a beast tide was. His expression changed immediately, and he accelerated toward southern wasteland city. Quick! Let's hurry to southern wasteland city and stop the beast tide from invading, and protect the civilians in the city. Although the southern continent and southern wasteland city were not under his jurisdiction. But as a divine general of the imperial court, it was his duty to protect the civilians and territory of the human race, regardless of region. Ji Tianqing was no exception. As a transcendent expert, how could he stand aside and watch the civilians suffer a disaster with his own eyes? Swoosh! Swoosh! The two of them flew toward southern wasteland city as fast as light, and arrived above the city gate in the blink of an eye. On the grassland outside the city, there were thousands of ferocious demon beasts, madly rushing toward southern wasteland city. Those demon beasts were of different races. There were cloud leopards with silver stripes all over their bodies, flame tigers with fiery red bodies, thunder beasts with 4 feet on fire, and electric arcs on their antennae. Most of the demon beasts had the strength of the metaphysical realm, and their bodies were about 1 to 2 zhang long and 2 to 3 meters tall. A few of the demon beasts were as large as houses, aggressive and full of murderous intent. They were all Origin Core realm demon beasts. And in the sky, there were several giant demon beasts with wings, all of which had the strength of the Origin realm. The 6 demon beasts were the leaders of the thousands of demon beasts. Were the leaders. Their intelligence was quite high. They stood in the sky, overlooking the group of demonic beasts on the grassland, as well as the situation inside the southern wasteland city. Southern beasts southern wasteland city were in the sky, from different directions, and tried to tear wasteland city's defense. As for the 1,000-meter-high sky, the number of demonic beasts and birds that covered the sky was even greater. There were as many as 30 to 40,000 of them. The leading birds had a wingspan of nearly 100 meters, which was huge enough to cover the sky and the sun. Their wings stirred up strong winds like tornadoes as they rushed towards the southern wasteland city. Fortunately, the southern wasteland city seemed to have received the news in advance. They knew that the beast tide was about to break out and had already made corresponding preparations. Experience time. Times of hundreds of demon beasts. Every time a demon beast tide broke out, there would be some signs. The 2 city gates of southern wasteland city were closed, and the city defense array was activated. An earthy yellow light shield with a radius of 100 miles enveloped the entire southern wasteland city. Above the city wall, tens of thousands of city guards and warriors were holding swords and crossbows, ready for battle. Between the battlements of the city wall, many ballistae, catapults, and spears were set up. When the demon beasts from all directions crazily attacked the defensive formation of the southern wasteland city, the dark yellow light shield started to shake intensely under the bombardment of the fierce attacks. Countless city guards started to fight back. They controlled the ballistae, catapults, and spears to release countless steel arrows, millstone stones, and fine steel spears. Thousands of arrows and fine steel spears formed a rain of arrows, crazily raining down on the demon beasts around the city. Countless millstone-sized rocks, carrying a violent force, ruthlessly smashed towards the demon beasts that were charging from all directions. Swish swish swish. Bang bang bang. The rain of arrows covered the sky, and the giant stones pierced through the sky. Countless crazy demon beasts were pierced through by the steel arrows and spears. They fell on the grassland with blood all over their bodies, or were nailed to the ground. There were also many huge demon beasts that were hit by the millstone stones falling from the sky. Their bones and flesh were smashed, and they fell to the ground, letting out angry roars. For a moment, the sound of arrows piercing through the sky, the sound of rocks colliding with flesh, and the roars of the demon beasts intertwined into a deafening sound wave, fiercely reverberating around the southern wasteland city. Although demon beasts were knocked down to the ground one after another, they were killed on the spot, and their flesh and blood were scattered all over the grassland. But this tragic scene did not frighten the other demon beasts. On the contrary, it stimulated their fierceness even more. They launched an even more desperate attack, using all their strength to fiercely attack the city defense array of the southern wasteland city. Tens of thousands of demon beasts and birds in the sky also spat out flames, ice, and spirit energy blades, wantonly bombarding the city defense array. Countless city guards and warriors of the southern wasteland city went all out to operate the city defense array, strenuously supporting it, resisting the fierce attack of the demon beast tide. However, the city defense array's power was quickly consumed, and it was on the verge of collapse. At the end of the grassland outside the city, endless demon beasts continuously rushed out of the forest, crossing the grassland as fast as the wind, and rushed toward the southern wasteland city while roaring. The situation of the southern wasteland city was getting more and more dangerous. The city defense array became thinner and thinner, shaking more and more violently, and even numerous cracks appeared. The city defense array was about to be breached by the demon beast tide. Once the demon beast army rushed into the city, countless city guards and warriors would have to fight the demon beasts in close quarters. At that time, the southern wasteland city would certainly be plunged into disaster and war. It would be too horrible to look at. At this critical moment, Xiao Han could not help but take action. Damn evil beasts, die! He stepped into the sky, reaching a height of 1,000 meters in 3 steps, and waved his big sleeves, shooting out hundreds and thousands of 5-colored light blades. Sky Wind Feather Blade. Thousands of 5-colored light blades, each more than 3 meters long, contained incomparably sharp power. Swish swish swish. The overwhelming 5-colored light blades, like a rain of arrows, poured down, and instantly hit more than 200 demon beasts. Those demon beasts did not have time to react, and simply had no time to dodge. They were killed on the spot by the 5-colored light blades, and even their corpses were cut into pieces of meat. Countless pieces of meat mixed with blood sprinkled on the dark green grassland, emitting a pungent smell of blood, and dyeing the grassland dark red. Xiao Han's move intimidated countless demon beasts, and also made countless city guards and warriors on the city wall exclaim. Ji Tianqing also did not want to be outdone. He jumped into the sky, and pounced toward the demon beasts and birds high in the sky. Chapter 1151. Ji Tianqing understood better than anyone the principle of capturing the leader first. There were tens of thousands of bird demon beasts in the sky, densely covering the sky. No matter how strong he and Xiao Han were, how many of them could they kill? Only by killing the leader of the demon beasts first would they be able to intimidate the beast tide to the greatest extent. Swoosh! Ji Tianqing turned into a beam of golden light and instantly rushed to the vicinity of the bird leaders. Without any hesitation, he directly used a powerful killing move. Metal Emperor Slash. He waved his palms, condensing a giant golden sword that was hundreds of meters long, and slashed toward the birds of the heavenly Yuan realm. The 6 bird leaders were as large as palaces, and their wings were hundreds of meters wide. They were circling in the sky, constantly emitting chirps, commanding tens of thousands of birds to attack from all directions. The sudden appearance of the giant golden sword caught them off guard and they were unable to dodge. The giant golden sword drew a beautiful arc in the sky, and at an incredible angle, struck 3 bird leaders one after another. Bang bang bang. Following 3 deafening sounds, the 3 leaders of the birds were cut in half on the spot. Their corpses sprayed blood all over the sky and sprinkled down from the sky. The other 2 bird leaders sensed that something was wrong, and immediately let out a shrill and panicked cry, fleeing into the distance. Ji Tianqing did not hesitate to chase after them, waving his hands to release 2 giant sword radiances that shot out. Another 2 muffled sounds exploded. Before the 2 bird leaders could escape far, they were pierced through by the giant sword and killed in an instant. 5 heavenly Yuan realm bird leaders were easily killed by Ji Tianqing. The tens of thousands of bird demon beasts in the sky were suddenly a little flustered, and holes and gaps appeared in their formation. Countless soldiers and warriors on the city walls saw this scene with their own eyes, and immediately cheered in excitement. Look, there are experts coming to rescue us. Great! We're saved at last. Everyone look, the demon beasts in the sky are flustered, they must be scared out of their wits. The strength of those 2 experts is so terrifying. They are definitely not from our Heaven Wasteland Empire. They are most likely experts under the command of the Domain Lord. Quickly report to the City Lord that an expert has come to our aid. The soldiers and cultivators on the city wall cheered, raising their arms and cheering for Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han. They looked at the figures of Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han. Their burning eyes were filled with worship. Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han, one dealing with the flying birds in the sky, the other dealing with the huge demonic beasts outside the city. They fought fiercely with tens of thousands of demonic beasts. They used their secret techniques and ultimate skills with unpredictable power, often killing 100 or 200 demon beasts with a single move, which was an eye-opener for the warriors of the southern wasteland city and made them extremely excited. Not long after, the southern wasteland city lord led 2 commanders and a few clan lords to the top of the city wall. These people were the most powerful experts and nobles of the southern wasteland city, and also the spiritual support of the people of the southern wasteland city. When they saw the heroic appearance of Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han on the city wall, they also revealed a look of shock, their eyes full of gratitude. Unknowingly, a quarter of an hour had passed. Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han had both killed more than 3,000 demon beasts, but they themselves were not injured in the slightest, and were still full of energy. Inside and outside the southern wasteland city, the corpses of demon beasts were scattered everywhere. Blood fell to the ground, dyeing the grass dark red. The battle situation was so tragic, but the beast tide was still surging. Tens of thousands of demon beasts were still unwilling to retreat, and madly attacked the southern wasteland city, besieging Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han. The soldiers and cultivators on the city wall all relaxed, and their hearts were much more at ease. In their opinion, with the 2 super experts Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han, the safety of the southern wasteland city was assured. Even the mayor and the heads of the wealthy families were discussing with a smile, guessing the identity of Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han. Suddenly, in the dark gray sky, a huge shadow like a mountain suddenly appeared. Swoosh! It was a shadow with a radius of 1,000 meters, carrying a terrifying aura that could suppress the heaven and earth, and fell from the sky. Its falling speed was extremely fast, like a huge mountain pressing down, fiercely bombarding the southern wasteland city. When everyone felt that something was wrong, and looked up to the sky, the shadow had already rushed to the top of the southern wasteland city. Only then did everyone see clearly that it was a giant black bird with a length of 1,000 meters, with a pair of wings that could cover the sky and the sun. Its appearance was like a goshawk, but it had 4 thick and powerful claws, and black feathers all over its body, as hard and cold as steel, emitting a sharp cold light. Especially its head, it was even more unusual. There was a bunch of dark golden feathers on its forehead, like a cluster of golden sharp swords, containing an invincible sharpness. In a pair of huge gray eyes, blood-red pupils revealed a taste of madness and bloodthirst. Ji Tianqing, Xiao Han, and the mayor of the southern wasteland city were stunned for a moment, and then they all reacted, exclaiming one after another. "Oh my God, what kind of monster is that? Such a huge demonic beast, its aura is so strong. It's the sky eagle. Its strength has reached the soul-refining stage. It's over. A soul-refining stage demonic beast is attacking the southern wasteland city, how can we resist it?" In just 2 breaths, the mountain-like sky eagle fell from the sky and bombarded the city defense array. Kaboom! In the deafening loud noise, its 4 huge, dark, cold, and incomparably sharp claws, which were as big as a house, fiercely smashed the city defense array. The dark yellow light barrier within a radius of 100 miles instantly collapsed and exploded into pieces that blotted out the sky and covered the earth, splashing in all directions. An incomparably violent hurricane raged in the southern wasteland city, crazily sweeping in all directions. The tall and sturdy city gate was blown down on the spot. The mayor of the southern wasteland city, 2 commanders, several leaders of wealthy families, and many city guards, who were standing on the city wall, were all blown away. The soldiers and warriors below the sky origin stage directly had their internal organs smashed, and fell to the ground, dead. The few city lords and leaders of wealthy families who had reached the sky origin stage were also seriously injured on the spot, vomiting blood and screaming after falling to the ground. In the blink of an eye, the jubilant atmosphere dissipated, and countless people fell into panic and horror. The city defense array was broken, and the southern wasteland city was exposed to the demonic beast tide, like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Tens of thousands of demonic beasts suddenly became crazy with excitement, and rushed to the southern wasteland city recklessly, like a tide sweeping through the buildings in the city, and countless people. In the blink of an eye, the southern wasteland city fell into a huge chaos. The buildings collapsed, and countless people died under the claws of the demonic beasts. Black smoke rose from the raging fire, making the city a mess. Chapter 1152. Although Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han didn't understand why the Sky Eagle was attacking the southern wasteland city. This kind of spirit-refining realm beast was an overlord in the southern wasteland swamp. Why would it be interested in the small southern wasteland city? But they didn't have time to think about it. The most important thing now was to stop the Sky Eagle from wreaking havoc in the city and rescue the people as soon as possible. Ji Tianqing hurriedly said to Xiao Han, "Lord Divine General, please stop the beast tide and protect the people in the city. I will deal with the Sky Eagle." Xiao Han immediately shook his head and said worriedly, "Young Master Ji, that Sky Eagle is a 1,000-year-old demon king. Its strength is comparable to a 6th or 7th level spirit-refining realm expert. You can't deal with it alone. It's too dangerous. If you want to deal with it, you and I have to work together." Ji Tianqing looked at him with a resolute gaze and said in a resolute tone, "Lord Xiao, please trust me and let me deal with it. You are the divine general of the imperial court. Protecting the people is your top priority." Then, he rushed to the Sky Eagle without looking back. His whole body was bursting with murderous intent. 3 blazing soul magic swords flew out from his back. Xiao Han was stunned. He looked at Ji Tianqing's back with a complicated expression. He pursed his lips and said, "Young Master Ji, you must be careful." How could he not understand that protecting the people in the city was more important and easier? Dealing with the Sky Eagle was the most dangerous. The slightest carelessness could cost one's life. But Ji Tianqing chose to deal with the Sky Eagle and took the initiative to risk his life. How noble and righteous was this? Xiao Han didn't say it, but he admired Ji Tianqing very much. The more he interacted with Ji Tianqing, the more he understood Ji Tianqing, the more he admired this young man. He was really a peerless talent with good character. He looked at Ji Tianqing deeply, then turned and flew to the southern wasteland city to rescue the people and kill the demon beast that invaded the city. The Sky Eagle didn't stop after destroying the city defense array. It didn't attack the people. It seemed to have a target. Its figure flashed and flew deep into the southern wasteland city. Shwa! After a few breaths, it rushed to the deepest part of the southern wasteland city like a black shadow, and stopped in the air above a pagoda. This was an ancient pagoda that was over 1,000 feet tall, and was completely gold and red in color. The pagoda had a total of 9 floors, but it was always sealed and no one could enter. On the cornice around the pagoda, there were countless carvings of divine beasts. They were lifelike and looked extremely sacred. At the top of the pagoda stood 2 lifelike statues of 2 divine birds. The divine bird on the left was a crimson fire phoenix, while the divine bird on the right was a dark gold dragon phoenix. This pagoda was the iconic building of the southern wasteland city. It was also the holy pagoda in the hearts of all the citizens. It was said that this sacred tower had thousands of years of history and was a relic left behind from ancient times. For thousands of years, the southern wasteland city had gone through the vicissitudes of time. The city had expanded several times, and it had been rebuilt more than a dozen times. However, this holy tower would always stand in the depths of the southern wasteland city. There was a poignant and touching legend about the sacred tower. However, other than the citizens of the southern wasteland city, no one believed in this legend, nor were they interested in it. The last time Ji Tianqing came to the southern wasteland city, he had noticed this pagoda and understood the relevant information. However, he did not have the time to enter the pagoda to worship and tour it, so he did not take this matter to heart. When he caught up with the Sky Eagle, he realized that the Sky Eagle was staring at the sacred tower. Only then did he realize that something was amiss. The Sky Eagle's eyes were fixed on the sacred tower. Its dark red pupils were surging with excitement and desire. It seemed to have sensed Ji Tianqing's aura and sensed that danger was approaching. It did not waste any more time and immediately took action. Swoosh! It released an endless amount of black light from its body. It flapped its wide wings and condensed into the shadow of a giant sword. It charged at the sacred tower as fast as the aurora. Kaboom! The sky eagle slammed into the sacred tower, and there was a loud explosion. The golden-red sacred tower's defensive array was activated, and a crimson and dark gold light barrier lit up. The entire sacred tower trembled violently. The ground at the bottom of the tower cracked in all directions. However, the holy pagoda did not collapse. The golden-red barrier cracked, but it still protected the holy pagoda. Chirp! The sky eagle's eyes shone fiercely. It once again unleashed all its strength, and its body lit up with the white light of the divine soul. Kaboom! It charged at the sacred tower recklessly and attacked the sacred tower's defensive light barrier again. Kacha! Kacha! The golden-red light barrier cracked even wider, and countless fragments burst out. It was on the verge of collapse. A super earthquake occurred in a 15-mile radius around the sacred tower. The ground cracked open, and countless wide ravines were formed. Tens of thousands of houses and buildings collapsed from the earthquake, turning into ruins. Countless citizens were buried in the ruins, and they let out desperate wails as they were on the verge of death. Ji Tianqing frowned. His pupils constricted as he stared at the sacred tower. It was only at this moment that he realized that the unassuming sacred tower was actually so magical. This was because the golden-red light barrier protecting the sacred tower was actually a soul-grade defensive array. The sky eagle's strength had reached the 6th level of the spirit refinement realm. It attacked the sacred tower with all its might twice, but it still could not break the light barrier. No. There must be something wrong with this sacred tower. What secret is hidden inside that made the sky eagle so crazy? This thought flashed through his mind. He was also very puzzled and curious. However, he did not have time to think about this. He made a prompt decision and used a secret technique to attack the sky eagle. Damned beast, die! Lightning! Ji Tianqing let out a low growl and suddenly opened the third eye on his forehead. The azure-blue pupil in the golden eye released endless lightning. It condensed into a blue light pillar and blasted at the sky eagle. Kaboom! The sky eagle was hit by the lightning pillar. It let out a tragic cry and crashed into the sacred tower. Its body was charred black by the lightning. Black smoke rose in spirals, and its feathers curled up. However, this was only a light injury to it. It did not affect its battle. It actually ignored Ji Tianqing. When it saw the sacred tower's defensive light barrier crack, its eyes were filled with ecstasy. It waved its 4 claws and slapped the sacred tower with all its might. Bam! 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 In a series of dull sounds, the sacred tower's defensive light barrier shattered and completely collapsed. Following that, the 100 feet tall sacred tower also collapsed with a rumble. It was broken into several pieces by the sky eagle. Countless bricks and tiles fell from the sky to the ground. The 2 dragon and phoenix statues at the top of the tower also broke into pieces and scattered among the ruins. The sky eagle pounced into the pile of ruins. Its 4 claws dug into the ruins and dug out 2 dazzling balls of light. One was a fiery red ball of light, and the other was a resplendent golden ball of light. Chapter 1153. The sky eagle used its 2 front claws to hold the ball of fire and the ball of golden light. It raised its head and let out an excited cry. Chirp chirp chirp. It was very excited, as if it was venting the excitement in its heart. It even spread its wide wings and flapped them crazily. A fierce wind blew, sweeping up the rubble that was piled up like a mountain and splashing it in all directions. Heaven and earth were covered in a vast expanse of gray. The rubble that was as dense as raindrops flew wildly in a 20-mile radius. The buildings that had not completely collapsed were completely smashed into smithereens by the hurricane and rubble. Many of the civilians and martial artists that had just escaped from the rubble were also minced into pieces by the hurricane. It was a horrible death. Ji Tianqing's chest surged with killing intent. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he unsheathed his sword without hesitation. Clang! He pulled out the broken sword and slashed at the sky eagle with all his might. Vast and mighty spiritual energy condensed into 100-meter-long blazing white sword light. With a destructive power, it struck the sky eagle that was still chirping excitedly. Bam! This sword struck the heavenly eagle's back, sending it flying out with a loud bang. Its feathers that were as hard as iron were neatly cut off by the sword light and floated in the air. A gruesome wound that was more than 100 feet long was left on its back. It went deep into the bone and black blood spurted out. Bam! The sky eagle flew nearly 10 miles away and crashed into the city wall in the distance. The tall and majestic city wall was smashed by it and collapsed for 10 miles, turning into ruins all over the ground. It rolled a dozen times on the ground before flapping its wings and flying up. It let out a furious roar. It swallowed the ball of fire and the ball of golden light and turned to look at Ji Tianqing. Its eyes were filled with anger and resentment. Then, it flapped its wings and released thousands of blazing white light blades that rained down like a rain of arrows. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Thousands of spiritual energy light blades instantly tore through the sky and crossed the distance of 10 miles to arrive in front of Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing could only control the 3 spiritual energy swords to form a sword net to protect himself. Spiritual energy sword net. The 3 soul-type magic swords danced as fast as the aurora, forming an impenetrable sword net that enveloped him. Thousands of soul light blades drowned Ji Tianqing's figure and hit the net of swords, producing a series of muffled sounds. Ping ping ping. Ji Tianqing was sent flying 1,000 meters away and crashed into the ruins, stirring up a cloud of dust. A moment later, when the thousands of divine soul light blades had dissipated, he withdrew the magic sword net. And at this time, the sky eagle had already flown into the sky. It escaped from the southern wasteland city like a shooting star, and flew straight towards the southern wasteland great swamp. Damned beast, you've already achieved your goal, and now you want to run away? Ji Tianqing frowned, a cold light surging in his eyes. Of course, he couldn't let the sky eagle go. He had to kill this strange beast and take back the 2 mysterious balls of holy light. But before chasing after the sky eagle, he opened the entrance to the world and the sword. He released the little black dragon, Qian Yu, and the Jinshan king, as well as more than 500 earth spirit warriors. Little black dragon, Qian Yu, Jinshan king, go help the divine general, stop the beast tide, and save the people in the city. He ordered in a dignified tone, then flew into the sky and chased after the sky eagle alone. The Jinshan king, Qian Yu, the little black dragon, and several hundred earth spirit warriors appeared out of thin air in the ruins. They saw the ruins in the city, and countless people and martial artists fighting against the demon beasts, and understood the situation. So, they hurriedly helped Xiao Han kill the demon beasts and save the people in the city. The several hundred earth spirit warriors also used their innate talents to quickly clear the ruins in the city and save the people buried in the ruins. With their help, the pressure on Xiao Han was greatly reduced. The people and martial artists in the city gradually stabilized and began to counterattack in an orderly manner, resisting the invasion of the beast tide. Ji Tianqing stepped on the soul magic sword and flew through the sky like an aurora, chasing after the sky eagle into the southern wilderness great marsh. Although the sky eagle was injured, it was still strong. It was originally a flying beast, so it was best at flying, and its speed was unbelievably fast. Ji Tianqing used all his strength on the soul magic sword to barely catch up to it and gradually closed the distance. About 15 minutes later, Ji Tianqing chased for more than 2,000 kilometers into the great marsh before finally catching up to the sky eagle. It was already night, and the curtain of night covered the world. The sky was covered with gray clouds, and the ground was covered with a boundless forest. When Ji Tianqing was still 2.5 kilometers away from the Sky Eagle, he brazenly attacked. Sky-burning palm. He raised his magma-red left arm and slapped out a giant flaming palm as large as a mountain. The giant flaming palm cut through the night sky, illuminating half of the sky, and hit the Sky Eagle with unbelievable speed. Boom! Amidst the deafening loud noise, the Sky Eagle was hit by the giant flaming palm. It fell from the sky with a miserable cry, smashing into the forest below. Its entire body ignited with crimson fire, actually igniting the vast forest and burning the gray ground into magma. But white light surged out of its body, erupting with divine soul power, dispersing the fire in a blink of an eye and suppressing the wound. Then, it flapped its wings and flew into the sky, stopping and confronting Ji Tianqing. Despicable little bastard, you actually chased this emperor here, truly reckless. The Sky Eagle glared at Ji Tianqing with bloodshot eyes, and actually spoke in human language, emitting a low and hoarse voice. Ji Tianqing was stunned for a moment, then said with a cold smile, "Hu, indeed worthy of being a soul refinement realm beast, to actually be able to speak in human language. No wonder Xiao Han said that you're an old demon king that has lived for 1,000 years. Demon king." A hint of contempt flashed across the Sky Eagle's eyes, and it said with a cold smile, "This emperor is the Sky Eagle Demon Emperor. I rule over 100,000 miles around Crimson Firmament Mountain, and I have hundreds of millions of demon beasts under my command." Ji Tianqing said expressionlessly, "I don't care if you're a demon king or a demon emperor. You actually dare to lead thousands of beasts to invade a human city instead of staying in the Great Swamp. I'll definitely kill you when I meet you. With just you. Dream on." The Sky Eagle said in a disdainful tone, "This emperor just doesn't want to stay in human territory and return to Crimson Firmament Mountain as soon as possible to refine the Sacred Heart. Do you think that this emperor ran away because I'm afraid of a little worm like you?" Ji Tianqing immediately frowned and asked doubtfully, "Sacred Heart? The 2 balls of sacred light that you obtained from the sacred tower just now?" The Sky Eagle knew that it had misspoken, so it hurriedly shut up and did not mention this matter. It shouted with a murderous aura, "Little worm, you talk too much. This emperor will tear you to pieces right now." As its voice fell, a white light surged out of its body, and it actually condensed into 6 white Sky Eagle phantoms. Those were 6 divine soul phantoms, just like its 6 divine soul clones. They floated in the night sky behind it, staring at Ji Tianqing with malicious gazes. Sky Shadow Ultimate Kill. The Sky Eagle let out a low cry, spread its wings, and released 9 giant white light blades, charging towards Ji Tianqing. The 6 divine soul phantoms also attacked from all directions, releasing dozens of giant divine soul blades. Chapter 1154. Although it was not known what the reason was, it made Sky Eagle endure all along in the southern desolate city. But now, it was already in the southern desolate swamp. Naturally, it did not need to endure and immediately revealed its true form. It used all of its strength to kill, causing a radius of several dozen miles to be shrouded in white light, bright as day. The vast and boundless divine soul power, the indestructible divine soul blade, completely drowned Ji Tianqing's figure. He was like a small boat, struggling bitterly in the sea of white light, likely to be drowned at any time. Sky Eagle's tyrannical strength was displayed without a doubt at this moment. Ji Tianqing was also fearless. 3 divine soul magic swords coiled around his body, condensing into a magic sword net. This was a consummate skill that he only mastered after reaching the 3rd level of the soul refinement realm. It was born out of the flowing light sword net that he used before. At that time, he used sword energy to condense a sword net, which could block weapon attacks and siege attacks. And now, he condensed a sword net with divine soul magic swords, which could block any attack. Bang! 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 The divine soul blades that blotted out the sky and covered the earth fiercely slammed into the magic sword net, erupting with an earth-shattering bang. The bombardment of Sky Eagle and the 6 divine soul phantoms sent him flying backward, smashing into the vast forest on the ground with a loud bang. Following a loud explosion, a huge crater with a radius of several dozen miles was smashed out on the ground, splashing mud and wood chips all over the sky. The surrounding earth quaked and the mountains swayed. Several mountain peaks collapsed along with it, turning into ruins. Ji Tianqing's magic sword net was actually blasted apart. The 3 divine soul magic swords were all sent flying, slashing into the ground. He climbed out of the crater with a pale face and flew back into the sky once more. Sky Eagle occupied high in the sky, staring at him with a malicious gaze. The 6 divine soul phantoms also spread out, heavily surrounding him. Ji Tianqing panted for a moment, silently circulating his energy to regulate his breathing, suppressing the injuries of his internal organs. He stared at Sky Eagle with an icy gaze and said in a low voice, "Sky Eagle, if you only have this bit of ability, then your time of death has arrived." He. Sky Eagle laughed heartily and cried out in a cruel tone, "Arrogant and ignorant worm, I can easily kill you. I will definitely tear you to pieces." As his voice fell, 6 mountain-like soul phantoms rushed towards Ji Tianqing from all directions, besieging him once again. Swish! Swish! The 6 sky eagles waved their huge sharp claws, shooting out white light arrows and sharp blades that covered the sky, drowning Ji Tianqing's figure. The sky eagle flapped its wings and thousands of black feathers flew out of its body. It was infused with terrifying spiritual energy and charged towards Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing's expression was solemn. He spread out the golden wings on his back to protect himself. Wings of the golden rock. In the next moment, the 6 soul phantoms, the thousands of soul blades, and the black feathers all hit him. Bang 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 bang. Along with an earth-shattering explosion, Ji Tianqing's golden wings trembled from the impact. The power of the wings was quickly exhausted, and the light became extremely dim. In the blink of an eye, the golden wings retracted back into his body. And he was also hit by the black light formed by hundreds of black feathers. His body trembled and flew out. When he fell from the sky and smashed into the huge pit on the ground, his body was already stained with blood, looking rather wretched. Tianning laughed maniacally. Once again, he controlled the 6 spiritual phantoms to descend from the sky and attack Ji Tianqing. "Little reptile, you dare to fight against this emperor with just you? Prepare to die." The 6 soul phantoms stretched out their sharp claws and with a destructive impact, drowned Ji Tianqing's figure. And Ji Tianqing stood in the deep pit, expressionless, staring coldly at the sky eagle in the night sky. He ignored the 6 soul phantoms and used all his strength to brazenly wave the broken sword, thrusting out the most dazzling sword. Thrusting sword style. Swish! The broken sword stabbed out, and a cold light appeared and rapidly disappeared. A dot of cold light illuminated the sky, piercing through the dark night, passing through 10 miles of space and instantly striking the sky eagle's body. Then, that dot of cold light that condensed to the limit suddenly bloomed, exploding with a destructive power. Boom! Following a deafening explosion, the sky eagle's enormous body instantly exploded into pieces of flesh that filled the sky, scattering in all directions mixed with black blood. Among the feathers and pieces of flesh that blotted out the sky, there were also several blazing white fragments that fell from the night sky. That was precisely the sky eagle's soul crystal, commonly known as the soul crystal. Ji Tianqing's all-out sword not only destroyed the sky eagle's physical body, it also directly destroyed its soul crystal. The sky eagle died on the spot. Its 6 soul phantoms also suddenly dissipated the instant before they were about to hit Ji Tianqing. When the pieces of flesh fell to the ground, a series of plop-plop sounds rang out, piling up into a small black mountain. The world gradually returned to calm, and the violent spirit qi and soul power also gradually dissipated. Ji Tianqing stepped on the night sky, walking out of the deep pit step by step, flying to the mountain of body fragments. He searched through the pieces of the corpse for a while. Then, he found 5 soul crystal fragments and held them in his right palm. A mysterious black hole appeared in his right palm, connecting to the broken sword. Burial of Heaven, this sky eagle is an expert at the 6th level of the soul refinement realm. Its soul crystal fragments should be of great benefit to you, right? As his voice fell, a few soul crystal fragments passed through the black hole and entered the broken sword, quickly being devoured by the burial of heaven. Then, he rummaged through the body fragments for a while before finding the 2 balls of light that the sky eagle had devoured. A ball of crimson fire and a ball of bright golden light, both containing mysterious and majestic power. Ji Tianqing held a ball of holy light in each hand, only to feel as if he was holding 2 mountains, incomparably heavy. These 2 balls of holy light were like 2 suns, violent and scorching, as if they could explode at any time, destroying the world. I really didn't expect such a treasure to be hidden in the small southern wasteland city. He was a little emotional in his heart, lowering his head to observe the 2 balls of holy light. He saw that a fist-sized red heart was wrapped in the crimson fire, and it seemed to still be beating. In the bright golden light, a golden heart was also wrapped. Its appearance was the same as the crimson heart, but its size was a little smaller. After Ji Tianqing used his soul power to investigate, he found that these were 2 mysterious gems, not real hearts. Of course, he guessed that these might be gems transformed from hearts. He just couldn't understand why the sky eagle called these 2 gems saint hearts. After pondering for a moment, he put the 2 saint hearts into the space ring, leaped into the night sky, and returned to southern wasteland city. Not long after, when he returned to southern wasteland city, he saw that the city was bustling with noise and excitement. Fires were lit everywhere in the city, and countless city guards and martial artists were busy helping the injured or maintaining order. Chapter 1155. Ji Tianqing flew over the southern wasteland city and observed the situation in the city. The beast tide had already ended. Tens of thousands of demon beasts had just escaped from the southern wasteland city. Broken walls were everywhere in the city. The ground was cracked, the houses collapsed, and the streets were twisted and broken. Corpses of demon beasts could be seen everywhere on the ground. The mud and bricks were all stained with blood. Of course, many corpses of civilians were also found by the warriors of the Earth Spirit clan from the ruins and were placed on the ground in an orderly manner. All in all, the southern wasteland city under the night sky was still filled with panic and grief after the disaster. But the civilians had already experienced many similar situations, so their reactions were still calm and not panicked. The southern wasteland city master, several commanders, and the leaders of wealthy families were all trying their best to endure their injuries and command the city guards and civilians to carry out the rescue. Xiao Han and the Golden Mountain King, with the help of the warriors of the Earth Spirit clan, performed secret arts to repair the ground, clean up the ruins, and rebuild the houses. This was the talent and strength of the Earth Spirit clan. The speed of rebuilding houses was very fast. After just 2 hours, most of the ground and streets in the city had been restored to their original state. Next, the warriors of the Earth Spirit clan had to help the civilians rebuild their houses, which would take a whole night. The aftermath of the disaster in the city was carried out in an orderly manner. The civilians also calmed down and waited for the reconstruction to be completed. Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han followed the southern wasteland city master and the others into the city master's mansion. The southern wasteland city master, several commanders, and family leaders were all very respectful to Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han. When the 2 of them sat down in the main hall, everyone walked in front of them and respectfully bowed, expressing their gratitude. Thank you for saving the southern wasteland city. On behalf of the millions of civilians in the southern wasteland city, we express our heartfelt gratitude to the 2 seniors for their help. The southern wasteland city will never forget the two seniors' great kindness. Xiao Han and Ji Tianqing slightly nodded and raised their hands to signal the others to be excused. Everyone chatted for a while before they started to talk about the important matters. After asking, the southern wasteland city master and the others knew that Xiao Han and Ji Tianqing were Donglin Divine General and Tianqin Territory Lord. With their status, it was very difficult for them to come into contact with such lofty figures. Naturally, they were filled with excitement and trepidation, afraid that they would neglect the two of them. They didn't even dare to sit down. They all stood respectfully in the hall and spoke carefully. Fortunately, Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han were more easygoing and did not put on the airs of a big shot. The two of them inquired about the casualty situation in the southern wasteland city and learned that the situation wasn't that bad. It was much lighter than the previous beast tide outbreaks. Speaking of the beast tide, Ji Tianqing conveniently asked the southern wasteland city lord if he knew the reason for the beast tide outbreak. The southern wasteland city master hesitated for a moment, then said with a solemn expression, "Lord Ji, to be honest, I'm not very clear about the cause of the beast tide outbreak. However, I have heard that since the ancient times thousands of years ago, beast tides have occurred from time to time. At that time, the southern wasteland city was not as big as it was today, nor was it as prosperous as it was now. According to the historical records of the southern wasteland city, in the ancient times, every beast tide outbreak would bring a huge disaster to the southern wasteland city. The casualties and losses were very heavy. However, no matter what, the people of the southern wasteland city would not leave. They would rebuild their homes and continue to reproduce. The reason is rumored to be related to the sacred tower in the city." Hearing the southern wasteland city lord mention the sacred tower, Ji Tianqing took the opportunity to ask, "Then do you know the origin and secret of the sacred tower? Why would it cause a beast tide outbreak?" The southern wasteland city lord smiled embarrassedly and said with a stuttering voice, "Lord Ji, I don't know the real reason. I've only heard some legends about the sacred tower. However, those are all illusory myths. I don't dare to tell you, lest you misunderstand." 2 years ago, Ji Tianqing was indeed skeptical about the myths and legends of the Tianxian continent. However, after the incident with the goddess of Yaoguang, he already believed most of them. He even took the initiative to inquire about those myths and legends to understand the ancient past. He waved his hand and said, "Don't be nervous. I'm very interested in these ancient myths and legends. You can tell me directly, I won't blame you." Finally, the southern wasteland city lord felt relieved. He immediately said, "Since Lord Ji has agreed, then I won't hide it anymore. According to the legends, in the ancient times, an earth-shattering war of the gods occurred that involved the entire Tianxian continent. It was known as the War of the Gods. Before the War of the Gods, the southern wasteland swamp was a vast expanse of mountains and plains. It was a place with abundant resources, a place that was like spring all year round, and a picturesque scenery. It was a peaceful paradise. Many races lived there and established many kingdoms. They coexisted in harmony with each other. There was even a kingdom of demonic beasts that was ruled by the legendary phoenix divine bird. According to the legends, for the phoenix divine bird, the male is the fire phoenix, and the female is the dragon phoenix. The king of the demonic beast kingdom was the fire phoenix, and the dragon phoenix was the queen. They loved each other deeply and loved peace. They lived on a sacred tree of the parasol tree, protecting millions of miles of territory and the people of each race. Although the story told by the southern wasteland city lord sounded absurd and illusory. But Ji Tianqing listened attentively and even nodded slightly to encourage him to continue. After the southern wasteland city lord got the approval, he gathered his courage and continued, but the good times didn't last long. After the War of the Gods broke out, it spread to the southern wasteland swamp. All the tribes and kingdoms were affected by the flames of war. The people had no way to make a living. Many tribal kings and kings begged the phoenix divine bird to stop the war of the gods and protect the peace of the land. It was said that the dragon phoenix was pregnant at that time and was peacefully giving birth to the baby phoenix. The phoenix divine bird considered for a long time. In order to protect the people of each race and its own kingdom, it finally decided to go to war and stop the invasion of the evil gods. The War of the Gods lasted for several months. The aftermath of the War of the Gods was like a world-ending calamity that descended upon the southern wasteland swamp. Millions of miles of mountains and plains were turned into sinkholes, abysses, and swamps. Countless tribes and kingdoms, and millions of creatures perished in the flames of war. The dragon phoenix was worried about her husband's safety. Without waiting for the birth of the baby phoenix, she rushed to the ninth heaven while pregnant to find the phoenix divine bird. When she found her husband, the phoenix divine bird was besieged by many evil gods. He was seriously injured and on the verge of death. So, the dragon phoenix and the phoenix divine bird fought side by side with the evil gods. No one knew how long they had been fighting and what they had experienced. In the end, several evil gods were killed by the phoenix couple. They also died in battle in the ninth heaven. Their souls scattered and their divine bodies turned into ashes. Chapter 1156. That parasol sacred tree is said to be the seed of an ancient sacred tree. Even after 10,000 years, it will not wither. However, the aftermath of the Battle of the Gods destroyed the entire southern wasteland swamp and burned down the parasol sacred tree. There was also a saying that after the phoenix couple died, the parasol sacred tree could not survive on its own. It withered and died, turning into black ashes. All in all, this sad legend was passed down from then on. In order to thank and commemorate the phoenix couple, the later generations have been extolling their legend. Many years after the Battle of the Gods, the continent returned to peace, and the various races rested. By chance, when a middle-aged couple was exploring the ruins of the southern wasteland swamp, they coincidentally found two gems. Those were two heart-shaped gems. Legend has it that they were transformed from the phoenix couple's sacred heart. The couple experienced life and death dangers in the southern wasteland swamp and finally escaped from it. They stopped here and lived in seclusion. At that time, this was just a small village. After the middle-aged couple learned about the legend of the phoenix, they built a pagoda here and worshipped the two sacred hearts. Since then, more and more people gathered here, taking root here and multiplying. After hundreds of years, the middle-aged couple was long gone. However, the pagoda and sacred heart remained forever. The once small village had developed into the bustling southern wasteland city. It became a place that adventurers had to pass through to enter the southern wasteland swamp. Adventurers from all over the world, after learning about the legend of the phoenix, would go to the sacred tower to worship and pray for the phoenix to bless them so that they could enter and exit the southern wasteland swamp smoothly. When the southern wasteland city lord spoke until here, he paused for a moment, and his face revealed a touch of anger. Originally, this was a good thing. People of all races thanked and worshipped the phoenix, commemorating it forever. However, there were always some despicable people with evil intentions, vainly trying to seize the legendary phoenix's sacred heart. Therefore, 3,000 years ago, there were several fights in the sacred tower, which led to the sacred tower almost being destroyed. After those few incidents, the southern wasteland city lord at that time ordered the sacred tower's entrance to be closed forever. Everyone could only watch and worship outside the tower, and could not enter the tower to worship. Later on, at an unknown time, the demonic beasts in the southern wasteland Great Lake would rush out of the Great Lake every few years and madly attack the southern wasteland city. The demonic beasts couldn't speak human language, so no one knew why they went crazy and why they attacked the southern wasteland city. However, the previous city lords all speculated that the reason why the demonic beasts attacked the southern wasteland city was probably related to the divine bird Phoenix's sacred heart. Perhaps those demonic beasts wanted to seize the saint's heart to increase their own strength. Or perhaps, they saw the phoenix as their ancestor and wanted to take back their ancestors' inheritance. Furthermore, in the previous beast hordes, the strongest beast leader was only at sky origin stage. I don't know why, but a demon emperor at the soul refinement stage actually appeared in this beast tide. The southern wasteland city lord had finally finished his story, and his tone was somewhat complicated and emotional. After listening, Ji Tianqing finally understood the whole story. Although he knew that the southern wasteland city lord's story was not complete, there were still some loopholes and parts that could not withstand scrutiny. But after all, this was a myth and legend passed down after the Great War of the Gods. No one had personally experienced it, and it was all passed down by word of mouth. How could there be no omissions and flaws? After a moment of silence, he nodded and said to the southern wasteland city lord, "This myth is indeed emotional. The divine bird phoenix is indeed worthy of being a sacred beast. It has the sacred heart to help the world and to love all races. The story you just told may not be complete and true, but it still has a high degree of credibility. Moreover, it has been thousands of years, no one can find out the truth, so there's no need to pursue anything further." Xiao Han's belief in this myth was obviously not as high as Ji Tianqing's. He nodded slightly and said with a solemn expression, "These myths, everyone should just listen to them. There's no need to delve deeper." The southern wasteland city lord could only cup his hands in obeisance and no longer say anything. Ji Tianqing frowned and thought for a while before he made up his mind and said to the southern wasteland city lord, "Previously, when the heavenly eagle destroyed the holy tower, I didn't see any sacred heart. I chased it into the great swamp, and after killing it, I didn't find anything either. If you really think there's a sacred heart in the holy tower, there's no harm in sending people to look for it in the ruins." Hearing him say this, Xiao Han and the southern wasteland city lord all revealed shocked expressions and exclaimed in disbelief. "What? Young Master Ji, you actually killed that heavenly eagle? That was an expert at the 6th level of the spirit refining realm. Lord Ji can actually kill the heavenly eagle. You really are the #1 genius of our race, a peerless genius. Lord Ji has such extraordinary strength at such a young age. In the future, you will definitely be a peerless hero, or even a supreme being." Everyone was shocked from the bottom of their hearts and praised Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said a few modest words. He looked at the southern wasteland city lord with a solemn expression and said in a solemn tone, "Facts have proven that the holy tower has experienced thousands of years and is no longer the holy tower of the past. Legend has it that the sacred heart of the phoenix that was worshipped in the holy tower may have disappeared many years ago, or it may have never existed. After this, I feel that you don't need to rebuild the holy tower anymore." That ancient mythical story was rarely mentioned, and almost no one went to worship it anymore. On the contrary, the demon beasts of the southern wasteland Great Lake have always been thinking about the legendary sacred heart of the phoenix and constantly attacking the southern wasteland city. This is not a good thing. Hearing him say this, the southern wasteland city lord nodded in agreement. "That's right, Lord Ji is right. This subordinate will not rebuild the holy tower. That legend is only a legend and will eventually disappear with the passage of time. But the people of our southern wasteland city have always been living in the shadow of the demon beast tide, which is a real harm. The holy tower has been destroyed, and that legend will also be forgotten. This subordinate believes that the demon beasts of the southern wasteland Great Lake will not attack the southern wasteland city in the future." This matter was settled. The southern wasteland city lord sent people to prepare a banquet to warmly entertain Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han to express the gratitude of the people of the city. But Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han refused. The two of them did not care about this kind of false reputation. Moreover, the city was in a mess. The people had not settled down and the work to clean up the aftermath had not been completed. The two of them only asked for 2 secret rooms and each went to meditate and rest. After a night of meditation, the two of them recovered their magic power and became full of energy again. The next morning, the Golden Mountain King and hundreds of warriors of the Earth Spirit race under his command also completed the reconstruction of the southern wasteland city and returned to the Sword World to rest. The southern wasteland city that was still devastated last night was restored to its original state in the morning, as if nothing had happened. Chapter 1157. Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han were rushing through the southern wasteland swamp at lightning speed. The beast tied in the southern wasteland city was just a small interlude, so Xiao Han didn't take it to heart. While he was on his way, he was thinking about the Xiao clan's Holy Fire Festival. Ji Tianqing was also communicating with the little black dragon and Qianyu. Qianyu was puzzled and asked, "Old Ji, you told the southern wasteland city lord that you didn't see the Phoenix Sacred Heart last night. Why did you lie? This isn't your style." The little black dragon also muttered, "Yeah, old Ji didn't even blink when he lied. I really can't believe it." Ji Tianqing's tone was somewhat emotional. He said faintly, "If I say that I did this for the good of the southern wasteland city, you might think I'm a hypocrite, but this is indeed half the reason. Without the Phoenix Sacred Heart and the Sacred Tower, the beast tide wouldn't have broken out in the southern wasteland swamp, and the southern wasteland city wouldn't have to suffer a disaster every 1 or 2 years. Most importantly, the legend of the phoenixes is related to the Great War of the Gods. I know the cause and origin of that war is related to the ancestor demon god. The people of the southern wasteland city can only enshrine the Phoenix Sacred Heart in the Sacred Tower and spread the legend of the phoenixes, silently paying tribute to them. However, this was useless and meaningless. What happened back then is about to happen again. The ancestor demon god is likely to revive and the demon army will sweep the world again. So, I'd rather lie and take the Phoenix Sacred Heart away and give it to the two of you. I hope that you can refine the Phoenix Sacred Heart and quickly increase your strength. In the future, you can help me resist the demon army, protect the people of the human race, and deal with the demon emperor and the ancestor demon god. You can consider it as inheriting the will of the phoenixes and completing their unfinished mission and wish." The little black dragon and Qianyu were silent for a moment, then muttered to themselves, "Inheriting the will. This is indeed much better than paying tribute to them. Old Ji, I agree with your way of doing things. Instead of letting the Phoenix Sacred Heart lie in the Sacred Tower, why not let us inherit it and avenge the phoenixes?" Ji Tianqing said solemnly, "It's good that you understand my intentions. Refine the 2 sacred phoenix hearts as soon as possible and strive to reach the spirit refinement realm as soon as possible. Remember, don't get it wrong. Little Black Dragon will refine the Fire Phoenix's heart, and Qianyu will refine the Dragon Phoenix's heart." Hearing his words, Qianyu hesitated for a moment, then said with a strange tone, "Old Ji, the legendary phoenix couple, they are incomparably loving, and will not change even in death. Say, after Dumb Dragon and I refine the Phoenix Sacred Heart, will we become, like the phoenix couple, falling in love with each other?" This. Ji Tianqing was stunned. He asked in a strange tone, "Qianyu, how do you want me to answer this question? You and the little black dragon have known each other for so many years and we are best friends. The two of you should love each other and take care of each other." "No. I won't." Qianyu immediately rejected the idea. She muttered unhappily, "I'm a heavenly fox. Dumb Dragon is a black dragon. We're of different races. How can we love each other? Besides, I've always treated the little black dragon as a brother, so how could I fall in love with it? It's dark and dull, too boring. It's not my type at all." Ji Tianqing's face darkened as he said snappily, "What brother? You're a girl and the little black dragon is a boy. As long as you're of different genders, it's fine. Why do you care so much? Besides, the little black dragon is so honest and considerate. If he can endure your unruly behavior, you should be content." The little black dragon, who had been silent this entire time, hurriedly nodded. "Old Ji, Qianyu, don't worry. When I become stronger, I will protect all of you with my life. Qian Yu stuck her tongue out at it. Ha ha ha. Who needs your protection? I don't care, humph. After saying that, it held the dragon phoenix sacred heart, found a mountain peak in the sword world with abundant spiritual energy, and went into seclusion to refine. The little black dragon was also in the secret chamber of the peaceful Earth City, focusing on refining the sacred fire phoenix heart. Ji Tianqing smiled silently. He didn't say anything more and continued on his way. Unknowingly, 5 days passed. Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han flew for 5 days and 5 nights in the southern wasteland Great Marsh. They crossed the outer mountain ranges and forests, and finally entered the central region of the Great Marsh. The terrain in front of them became lower and lower. Mountain ranges rarely appeared. The ground was filled with dark brown swamps and dark green forests. This was the central region of the southern wasteland Great Marsh, and also the most dangerous region. The cave dwellings and ruins of legendary experts were mostly hidden in this region with a radius of several 100,000 miles. Of course, the Shao clan was also in this region. At this time, the two of them were flying in the air above a swamp with a radius of nearly 10,000 miles. The dark brown swamp was filled with black mud. Layers of rotten leaves, brown branches, and other debris were piled up on top of it. Many colorful wild flowers and grass grew on the surface of the muddy swamp, attracting many colorful insects. Some strange-looking, gifted venomous snakes and insects were also hiding in the swamp, silently moving through the swamp. In the air above the swamp, there was a faintly discernible gray fog that contained terrifying poisonous gas. Fortunately, Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han were both in the soul-refining realm. With the protection of their divine soul, they could resist the corrosion of the miasma and poisonous fog. Moreover, the two of them were flying high in the sky and didn't land in the swamp. There wouldn't be any trouble or danger. While flying forward, Xiao Han said to Ji Tianqing, "Young Master Ji, this is the central region of the Great Marsh. We will reach the Shao clan after flying for another day. This area with a radius of 200,000 miles is the legendary soul-devouring swamp. It is one of the most dangerous regions in the Great Marsh. To the adventurers of the outside world, this is a death zone. To the disciples of the Shao clan, if they want to leave the Shao clan and enter the flourishing central state, this swamp is also the most dangerous barrier and test. When I left the Shao clan that year, when I was a fledgling, I almost lost my life in this soul-devouring swamp." When Xiao Han talked about the past, his face was full of sorrow and sorrow. Ji Tianqing listened quietly and occasionally responded. The two of them chatted as they walked, so they didn't feel lonely. At this time, in the sky 100 miles ahead, there was a loud rumbling sound. A dazzling light of true origin lit up the dusky sky. Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han looked in the direction of the sound and saw a dark green forest in the dark brown swamp. It was a small mound that protruded out of the swamp. It was only 10 miles in radius. There were all kinds of shrubs and small trees growing on it. Chapter 1158. When Ji Tianqing heard the loud noises in the sky, he thought that demonic beasts were fighting. After all, he had seen this kind of thing every day during his journey in the great swamp of the southern wasteland. When he looked at the sky above the mound, he found that there were 2 demonic beasts as huge as palaces attacking a 1,000-meter-long flood dragon. The 2 giant beasts were 100 meters long and looked like cheetahs, but their bodies were grayish-white and covered in layers of cloud patterns. They had 4 broad wings and long fluffy tails, like those of a grayish-white squirrel. They waved their gigantic front claws and unleashed an overwhelming amount of 5-colored spiritual light, attacking the dark gray flood dragon from both sides. The flood dragon kept roaring angrily and spewing out black water pillars, as well as ice blades and frost swords, to fight against the 2 giant beasts. The attacks of the 2 sides, the light blades and the shock waves, kept colliding with each other, creating loud rumbling noises. The colorful light covered the sky for dozens of kilometers and created violent shock waves. The entire mound shook violently, and huge pits appeared on the ground, splashing mud and wood chips all over the sky. The swamp around the mound was also dented by the shock waves, and mud splashed everywhere. The area within a radius of 30 kilometers was chaotic and dirty, making it impossible for people to get close. Ji Tianqing stared at the two giant demonic beasts, carefully sizing them up. Xiao Han raised his eyebrows and said to him through sound transmission, "Those are cloud-spotted beasts, high-ranked demonic beasts with powerful bloodlines. Adult cloud-spotted beasts have the strength of the soul-refining realm. Looking at the size and appearance of the two cloud-spotted beasts, they are obviously adults, and their strength is comparable to the second or third level of the soul-refining realm. But the flood dragon fighting with the cloud-spotted beasts seems a little strange." Hearing him say so, Ji Tianqing glanced at the two cloud-spotted beasts, and then his eyes fell on the dark gray flood dragon. The flood dragon was 1,000 meters long, covered in dark gray scales, with a pair of dark green eyes, and 4 thick and huge claws, which contained the strength to break mountains. Without a doubt, this was an azure dragon. Ji Tianqing sized it up and immediately frowned, revealing a puzzled expression. Azure dragon? This azure dragon's appearance and aura are somewhat familiar. Where have I seen it before? He frowned and pondered for a while. Suddenly, he recalled that he had seen an azure dragon in the evil dragon pool in the southern desolation's great swamp a year ago. Yes, that's it. But why did it leave the evil dragon pool and appear here? Ji Tianqing instantly confirmed that this azure dragon was the one in the evil dragon pond. Could it be, that fool's wish has been fulfilled? This thought flashed through his mind, and his eyes shone brightly as he looked around. As expected, he soon saw two tiny figures on the battlefield in the sky. They were two tall and sturdy human martial artists dressed in golden armor. They were currently on the left and right of the azure dragon, attacking the two cloud-spotted beasts with all their might. Both of them had long golden hair, wore armor and capes, and held broadswords in their hands. Both of them had not reached the soul-tempering realm and were only in the sky origin realm. They were no match for the cloud-spotted beasts at all. Even if they used all their secret skills to attack the two cloud-spotted beasts with all their might, it was useless. They could not hurt the beasts at all. On the contrary, the shockwaves from the battle between the cloud-spotted beasts and the azure dragon made the two of them retreat. They were covered in blood and were severely injured. The battle was not going well. The outcome of the battle was about to be decided. The cloud-spotted beasts' cultivation level was about the same as the azure dragons, and they had the advantage in numbers. Of course, they could defeat the azure dragon. Not only did the azure dragon have to fend off the two cloud-spotted beasts, but it also had to protect the two men in golden armor. The situation was getting more and more dangerous. The two men in golden armor were covered in blood. They were at the end of their rope and were badly injured. However, they did not want to retreat. They stubbornly held on and helped the azure dragon fend off the attacks from the cloud-spotted beasts. The attacks from the cloud-spotted beasts were getting fiercer and fiercer. They all opened their bloody mouths and roared into the sky, causing the wind and clouds within 100 miles to gather into a hurricane. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2,000-meter-tall tornadoes wrapped in pale white divine soul blades swept toward the two men in golden armor with unparalleled power. The two men immediately looked desperate. They desperately stimulated their potential. Dazzling golden light shone from their bodies as they turned around and fled into the distance. Unfortunately, the tornadoes were too powerful. They released a terrifying devouring power that covered an area of 30 miles. The two men in golden armor seemed to have fallen into a swamp. They ran slower and slower. In the end, they were swallowed back into the tornadoes. The two men in golden armor were about to be swallowed by the tornadoes. What awaited them was definitely being shredded to pieces by the tornadoes and dying on the spot. The azure dragon roared anxiously and immediately flew over to rescue the two men in golden armor. However, the two cloud-spotted beasts blocked it and attacked it from both sides, sending it flying back. At this critical moment, Ji Tianqing arrived above the mound and flew into the battlefield with a whoosh. When he got closer, he saw that the two men in golden armor were outsiders. They were the Golden Lion clan members he had seen before. One of them was a middle-aged man, the other a young man. The tall and burly young man was covered in wounds. His face was covered in blood, and his hair was disheveled. He was in a sorry state. Even so, he immediately recognized him. He was the prince of the Golden Lion clan, Shi Zhongjian. It really is that silly boy. This thought flashed through Ji Tianqing's mind. His eyes revealed a trace of relief. He did not hesitate to cast a spell and drew the cold, pitch-black broken sword. Draw your sword. Whoosh! The divine sword was unsheathed. Cold light flashed. 200-meter-long white sword lights formed by divine souls instantly cut through the turbid sky and slashed at the two tornadoes. At this moment, Shi Zhongjian and the middle-aged man were sucked into the tornadoes. They could not resist the tornadoes at all. The two closed their eyes in despair, waiting for their bodies to be crushed and their bones to be crushed. They waited for death to descend. However, with two earth-shattering booms, the two tornadoes collapsed and dissipated in the blink of an eye. The devouring power that enveloped heaven and earth dissipated. Shi Zhongjian and the middle-aged man fell from the sky and smashed into the swamp below. The two of them were stunned. When they came to their senses, they opened their eyes in disbelief. In the next moment, the two of them saw a scene that they would never forget. Ji Tianqing stepped into the sky, holding the broken sword majestically. He casually thrust it forward in a carefree manner. Whoosh! A cold light suddenly appeared and illuminated the sky. A cold light that had been condensed to the limit shot out from the broken sword. It instantly pierced through the sky and hit a cloud-spotted beast. Chapter 1159. The cloud-spotted beast, which had been aggressive and murderous just a moment ago, was actually unable to withstand the might of Ji Tianqing's sword. Just how strong was its defense and strength with its 100-meter-long body? However, in the face of Ji Tianqing's broken sword, it was as fragile as a piece of paper. Even its soul crystal was shattered by the power of this sword. It was shattered into pieces and scattered into the sky along with its flesh and blood. Shi Zhongjian and the middle-aged man were stunned. Sun Long and the other cloud-spotted beast were also dumbfounded. Everyone momentarily forgot about attacking and killing as they stared at Ji Tianqing, their eyes filled with shock and awe. Only Xiao Han was able to maintain his composure. He was not too surprised by this. After all, he had already witnessed Ji Tianqing's terrifying power. No matter what kind of miracle Ji Tianqing could create, he would feel that it was only natural. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Ji Tianqing waved his hand and unleashed a gigantic golden palm that blotted out the sky, dragging Shi Zhongjian and the middle-aged man back. The cloud-spotted beast finally came to its senses. It immediately abandoned Sun Long and pounced toward Ji Tianqing with a roar. Roar! It was enraged. It raised its head and roared into the sky. White light surged from its body as it unleashed 3,000-meter-long pillars of divine sense light toward Ji Tianqing. Vast divine power condensed into a scorching white pillar of light. It contained the power to destroy heaven and earth. It was enough to destroy everything within a 25-kilometer radius. The surrounding sky was illuminated. Violent gale-force winds spread, creating a huge vortex in the quagmire around the mound. This was the cloud-spotted beast's most powerful attack. In order to kill Ji Tianqing and avenge its companions, it had unleashed all of its power. Ji Tianqing did not back down. He also unleashed all of his power. He focused all of his essence, energy, and spirit to unleash the most powerful sword strike of his life. Heaven-splitting sword. This was the most powerful sword strike of the combination of essence, energy, and spirit, man and sword, and heavenly sword. The scorching white sword projection that was 1,000 meters long slashed through the sky with the power to destroy everything and struck one of the pillars of divine sense light. Boom! The pillar of spiritual energy collapsed on the spot, shattering into countless fragments that scattered in all directions. The power of the sword light did not decrease in the slightest, and it struck the cloud-spotted beast right in the middle of its head. Boom! With a muffled sound, the cloud-spotted beast's head was sliced open by the sword light. A huge gully appeared from its head to its back and then to its tail. Its 100-meter-long body was split into two halves from the middle by a single slash. Dark red blood gushed out like a torrential flood, sprinkling down from the sky into the swamp. The two halves of the cloud-mottled beast's corpse fell from the sky and smashed into the desolated mound. After the corpse fell to the ground, it twitched a few times before it finally calmed down and stopped moving. This cloud-spotted beast followed in its companion's footsteps and was instantly killed by Ji Tianqing's sword. Not only did its physical body die, even its soul crystal was split into several pieces and shattered on the spot. The battle ended with the death of the two cloud-spotted beasts. San Long, Shi Zhongjian, and the middle-aged blonde man all stared at this scene with their mouths agape. They did not recover from their shock for a long time. At the same time, a black airship was hiding in the swamp 20 miles away from the mound. This airship was not big, only half a meter long. It was completely black and had an exquisite and beautiful appearance. However, it was a soul-level Dharma treasure. There was a whole new world inside it, and it had a spacious Dharma treasure space. The black airship hid in the mud of the swamp. It did not light up, nor did it emit any spiritual chi waves. It was very difficult to discover it. Inside the flying boat, there was a young man and woman who were watching the situation outside attentively. The young man and woman were both in their early 20s. Their clothes were very exquisite, and their attire was very elegant and noble. The young man was tall and handsome. He wore a long blue robe embroidered with the pattern of a divine bird. The woman was also tall and beautiful. She wore a long yellow dress and had long hair that reached her shoulders. She wore a jade white pearl necklace around her neck. Her facial features were very delicate. Her clear eyes were like autumn water, and her long eyelashes were like two small fans. At this moment, her small cherry mouth opened silently. Her beautiful face was filled with shock, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. After being stunned for a while, she took a deep breath and praised sincerely, "Oh my God, where did that young man come from? He only used 2 swords and killed 2 cloud-spotted beasts. He looks about the same age as me. Why is his strength so terrifying? He has reached the soul-tempering realm. In the history of our Shao clan, there has never been such a valiant peerless genius, right?" The young man in the blue robe standing beside her also recovered from his shock. His face was still filled with amazement. He nodded in agreement and exclaimed in disbelief, "He is indeed too powerful. If we did not sneak out secretly, how could we see such a shocking genius? Sister Ling, that guy looks younger than me, but he has the strength of the soul-tempering realm. This is simply a miracle. Even if we can't get the tailbone and eyeball of the cloud-spotted beasts, we can see the young genius outside. This trip was not in vain." The delicate girl called Ling frowned slightly. After thinking for a while, she suddenly revealed a sly smile. "Xiao Chen, it is too early for you to say that. I think we might have a chance." That young genius passed by and saw the cloud-spotted beasts attacking the 2 golden-haired men. That was why he came to their rescue. A proud genius like him would definitely disdain to collect the spoils of war, let alone the tailbone and eyeball of the cloud-spotted beasts, right? I dare to bet that the genius will not take another look at the cloud-spotted beasts' bodies. He will most likely leave gracefully and leave us with an admirable back view. As Ling Er spoke, her clear eyes shone brightly. Her eyes were filled with worship and admiration. The young man called Xiao Chen looked at Ling Er's joyful expression and felt a little sour in his heart. However, he still nodded in agreement and said, "Sister Ling Er is still the smart one. It will be the Holy Fire Festival in a few days. We have to get the tailbone and eyeball of the cloud-spotted beasts and refine that magic treasure as soon as possible. Only then will we have full confidence to pass the test and obtain the top 2 spots to obtain the opportunity to leave the Shao clan." Ling Er pouted and said with a resentful tone, "I am already sick of staying in the Shao clan. I am almost bored to death from being trapped in that small world. Anyway, no matter what, I will obtain the top 2 spots in the test and strive to leave the Shao clan." Chapter 1160. While they were secretly discussing, Ji Tianqing and the others were also talking in the air above the mound in the distance. Shi Zhongjian brought the middle-aged man and flew to Ji Tianqing. He opened his arms excitedly and gave Ji Tianqing a bear hug. He was so excited that he spoke incoherently. "Brother Tianqing. Big brother. I finally see you again. Ma. That's great. This is such a pleasant surprise. I never thought that I would meet you here. You even saved me." Shi Zhongjian didn't care about his injuries. He didn't even wipe the blood off his face. Then, he pulled the middle-aged man beside him and said to Ji Tianqing, "Jin Gu, this is young Master Ji, the man I told you about before. He is a genius whose name shakes the whole continent." Jin Gu quickly wiped the blood off his face with his sleeve and bowed respectfully. He said to Ji Tianqing, "Greetings, young Master Ji. I am Jin Gu, the commander of the Golden Lion clan's Imperial Guards. I am responsible for protecting the prince. I am very grateful to young Master Ji for saving my life." After Jin Gu bowed, Shi Zhongjian excitedly waved at Sang Long and shouted, "Brother Long, come and see who this is." Sang Long was meditating. Hearing Ji Tianqing's call, he quickly flew over and looked at Ji Tianqing closely. Seeing Ji Tianqing's appearance, Sang Long raised his eyebrows and said in a complicated tone, "It's you?" Obviously, Sang Long had recognized Ji Tianqing. He was the young man who went through the evil dragon swamp a year ago. Ji Tianqing nodded to Sang Long and looked at Shi Zhongjian. He smiled and said, "Lion, it seems that your wish has been fulfilled." Shi Zhongjian patted his chest proudly and said with a hearty laugh, "Of course. I told you that year that I would make Brother Long acknowledge me. Since I left the southern wasteland and returned to the sect, I have been cultivating hard. Later, I went to the evil dragon pond with my master and several elders. It took me a lot of effort, to persuade Brother Long to go back to the sect with me." Ji Tianqing listened to Yi Xiao's story. He looked at Yi Xiao up and down and said, "Not bad. You have changed a lot in the past year. You have improved a lot. You are now at the 6th level of the Sky Origin stage." Shi Zhongjian's bodyguard, Jin Gu, was also at the 7th level of Sky Origin stage. In the Tian Xian land, these two could be considered as famous elite warriors. But in the depths of the southern desolation swamp, this little bit of strength was utterly insufficient, and he might even lose his life if he encountered 2 cloud-streak beasts. Ji Tianqing looked at Shi Zhongjian and asked doubtfully, "You've already achieved your wish by getting the blue dragon to follow you. Why did you come to the depths of the lake and even offend the cloud-model beast?" Shi Zhongjian awkwardly scratched his head and explained, "Big brother Tianqing, you know that a year ago when I came to the southern wasteland Great Marsh, I had 3 objectives to explore. After the blue dragon followed me, I thought that with its protection, would be more confident. So, I broke into this place to look for a cave dwelling of an ancient elite warrior. I didn't expect that this place was not a cave dwelling, but a nest of demonic beasts. There are 2 cloud-streak beasts living here." Ji Tianqing couldn't help but laugh. He said earnestly, "You made a big mistake, and you almost lost your life. There are very few elite warriors in the world, and a cave dwelling or a ruin from the ancient era is even rarer. How could it be so easy to find it? Usually, the information and secrets that are easily obtained are mostly false. You can't be so reckless in the future. Shi Zhongjian lowered his head and humbly accepted his criticism. He nodded and said, "Big brother Tianqing, you are right. I won't be so impulsive in the future." Xiao Han stood aside. Seeing that Ji Tianqing and Shi Zhongjian were chatting happily, he walked over. "Looks like you guys seem to have known each other for a long time and coincidentally met here today." Shi Zhongjian hurriedly nodded and said with a respectful attitude, "Junior Shi Zhongjian greets this senior." "I haven't asked senior, you are." Although he didn't know Xiao Han, he saw that Xiao Han was traveling with Ji Tianqing. His attitude towards Xiao Han was very respectful and courteous. Xiao Han saw this point and couldn't help becoming more and more curious about Ji Tianqing. After all, Shi Zhongjian was obviously not an ordinary person. To be able to have the blue dragon as a mount and companion, he definitely had a powerful background. Such a noble young genius was actually abnormally worshipping and getting close to Ji Tianqing. How could Xiao Han not be shocked and puzzled? He waved his hand at Shi Zhongjian and said with a light smile, "This seat is just a common person in the world. My name and whatnot don't need to care about it." Shi Zhongjian understood that he was unwilling to reveal his identity, so he didn't ask. After waiting for Shi Zhongjian and Ji Tianqing to catch up for a while, Xiao Han saw that it was about time and said, "Tianqing, we should go. This little brother and the others are injured and need to find a place to heal as soon as possible. We shouldn't waste their time." Ji Tianqing nodded and said, "Okay." Shi Zhongjian was very excited. Seeing that Ji Tianqing was about to leave, he said with some reluctance, "Young Master Ji, are you leaving now?" Ji Tianqing slightly nodded and said with a calm voice, "I have important matters to attend to, so I have to go first. Lion, if fate wills it, we will meet again." Shi Zhongjian suppressed his reluctance and nodded with a forced smile, "Okay, then you go about your business. I also have to leave and find a place to heal. Big brother Tianqing, if you have the chance, you must visit the divine hidden sect as a guest." "Of course." Ji Tianqing slightly nodded and waved his hand to bid him farewell. After that, Shi Zhongjian and Jin Go flew onto the azure dragon's back and quickly left this area, flying into the distance. After the azure dragon's figure disappeared into the horizon, Ji Tianqing said to Xiao Han, "Please wait for me for a moment, I will go and pack up some things." As he spoke, he landed on the ruined mound and searched for the corpses of the cloud spot beasts with sharp eyes. A moment later, he found the soul crystal fragments of 2 cloud spot beasts in the ruins of the mound and in the nearby quagmire. He put away the soul crystal fragments and sent them into the broken sword for burial of heaven to devour and refine. Then he turned around and was about to leave. At this time, a black flying boat suddenly emerged from the quagmire not far away and flew over as fast as lightning. Whoosh! The black flying boat stopped next to Ji Tianqing and a young man and woman with outstanding looks and extraordinary temperaments flew out from it. The young girl wore a light yellow dress. She had a delicate and cute face and a pair of big, expressive eyes. Her entire body exuded a strange aura. She was a little hesitant and nervous. Like a young girl who saw her idol, she flew excitedly and shyly towards Ji Tianqing. She looked like she wanted to say something but hesitated. "Young master, please wait." Chapter 1161. Ji Tianqing's expression and tone were extremely calm and indifferent, and he naturally possessed the dignified aura of a genius expert. Xiao Linger focused her gaze on his face and eyes, and she only saw his appearance clearly at this moment. Her delicate figure instantly shook as her pupils dilated slightly, and her eyes revealed dense joy and excitement. When she was in the distance, she only saw that Ji Tianqing's strength was formidable, his figure tall and handsome, and his entire body had an oppressive heroic aura that was like a sharp sword. Only when she was close did she notice that not only was Ji Tianqing tall and handsome, he was also extremely handsome, with slanted brows and starry eyes, and his eyes were dazzling and vast like stars. No matter if it was Ji Tianqing's age, strength, bearing, or appearance, they completely matched the Prince Charming in Xiao Linger's heart. She stared blankly at Ji Tianqing, actually forgot to speak for a time, and she stared fixedly at him without blinking. Ji Tianqing's brows raised once more as he revealed a wisp of a puzzled expression. "Miss, what's the matter?" Only now did Xiao Linger return to her senses and notice that she'd lost her composure, and she instantly blushed before lowering her head shyly and timidly. "Young Master Tianqing, I'm Linger, I have a presumptuous request, and I wondered if I can obtain your agreement." Ji Tianqing nodded lightly and said with an indifferent expression, "Please speak, Miss Linger. As for whether I agree or not, we'll discuss it later." Xiao Linger was even more delighted in her heart when she saw that he didn't refuse right away, and she hurriedly explained. "Young Master Tianqing, the matter is like this. My clan brother and I have to complete an extremely important matter, and we have no choice but to obtain the tailbone and eyeball of the cloud-striped beast. Unfortunately, our strengths are weak, and we've carefully planned for a long time before hiding nearby this mound and secretly observing for 2 days, yet we were unable to find an opportunity to make a move." Before she could finish speaking, Ji Tianqing had guessed her meaning, and he stretched out his hand to point at the cloud-striped beast's corpse as he said, "I'm not interested in the cloud-striped beast's corpse. If Miss Linger wants it, then please dig it up yourself." Seeing him agree to this matter, Xiao Linger's beautiful face revealed a smile that was like a flower, and she bowed with a heart full of excitement. "Thank you, young Master Tianqing. You've helped me greatly. Thank you so much." Ji Tianqing only nodded at her and didn't say anything. He turned around and flew into the sky, following Xiao Han into the distance. Xiao Linger wasn't in a hurry to dig out the tailbone and eyeballs of the cloud-streaked beast. She stood in the sky as she stared fixedly at Ji Tianqing's figure that vanished into the horizon, and she was still unwilling to withdraw her gaze. Xiao Qin stood beside her and said with a complicated tone, "Little sister Ling, he has already left. What are you still looking at? Let's quickly dig out the tailbone and eyeball of the cloud-spot beast. If we're late and other demonic beasts come over, we won't have a chance." Only now did Xiao Linger return to her senses. She withdrew her gaze with some reluctance, and then she took out her sword to rummage through the cloud-streaked beast's corpse. As she dug out the tailbone and eyeballs of the cloud-streaked beast, she still had a pensive look on her face, seemingly distracted. Xiao Qin understood her character the best. He couldn't help but tease her, "Little sister Ling, looking at your distracted appearance, you couldn't have fallen for that young master, right?" Xiao Linger's face turned red, and a trace of embarrassment flashed in her eyes. However, she did not shrink back. She glared at Xiao Qin angrily and said unhappily, "So what if I did? Young Master Tianqing is not only strong, but his appearance and temperament are also first-rate. His character is as gentle as jade. He is definitely one of the most elegant young masters in the world. He is a good match that countless girls yearn for even in their dreams. Even if I don't like a peerless genius like him, could it be that I like someone like you?" Xiao Chen's face immediately turned red, but he was speechless. He glanced at Xiao Linger and could only mutter softly, "Little sister Ling, I advise you not to overthink it. No matter how perfect that young master is, he is just a passerby. He has already gone far away. It is hard to say whether you will be able to see him again in this lifetime." Xiao Linger was immediately unhappy. She glared at him angrily and pretended to be fierce as she said, "Nonsense. If we are fated, we will definitely be able to meet again. I saw the direction that the two of them left in earlier. They were heading for our Xiao clan. Maybe they are going to the Xiao clan." "Ha!" Xiao Qin curled his lips and said with a smile, "Aside from the Xiao clan's disciples, who else can enter the Xiao clan? Do you think that young master looks like a Xiao clan's disciple?" You. Xiao Linger was almost choked to death by him. She angrily grabbed a bone and threw it at him. Are you the only one who talks too much? Let's get to work. Seeing that she was quite angry, Xiao Chen immediately let out a hearty laugh. Ha ha ha. Soon, the two of them dug out the tailbone and eyeball of the cloud-spotted beast. After keeping the spoils of war, the two of them finally heaved a sigh of relief. They quickly entered the black flying ship and left at lightning speed. On the way back to the Shao clan, the two of them were still discussing with anticipation in the flying ship. Phew! We are finally done. We have to go back quickly and bring the materials to Third Grandpa so that he can help us refine the artifact. Linger, as long as we get the artifact, we have an 80% chance of passing the test and getting the top 2. Xiao Linger nodded and said with righteous indignation, "Humph. It's all Xiao Shui and Xiao Chang's fault. They are too sinister. They have been planning the Holy Fire Festival since last year. If they did not ask Third Grandpa to refine the artifact, why would we need to take the risk to search for the materials and trouble Third Grandpa to refine the artifact for us?" Xiao Chen nodded in agreement and said, "That's right. Those fellows are guilty and know that they are not our match. So, they came up with such a plan. If everyone does not use the artifact and participates in the test with their own strength, I will definitely defeat all of them." Xiao Linger thought for a while and revealed a worried expression. She said, "Xiao Chen, I heard from my father that Third Grandpa's health is not very good. Many years ago, he suffered from an internal injury that will never heal. Over the past year, Third Grandpa has refined over 10 artifacts for our clan. His injury has already relapsed and his situation is very bad. I am really worried that after we find the materials, Third Grandpa will not be able to refine the artifact for us. However, I am more worried about Third Grandpa's injury." Xiao Chen was silent for a moment before he sighed with a complicated tone, "I hope Third Grandpa is fine. Otherwise, our wish of over 10 years will go down the drain." Unknowingly, a night passed. On the morning of the second day, the black flying ship flew continuously for 80,000 miles and finally arrived in the sky above a huge black quagmire. In the middle of this black quagmire with a circumference of 10,000 miles, there were 2 adjacent mounds. They were covered in lush shrubs and forests. These 2 black quagmires were the entrances to the Shao clan's territory. They were called the Gemini Islands. When the black flying ship arrived in the sky above the Gemini Islands, Xiao Chen and Xiao Linger flew out. The two of them were about to land on the mound and take out their tokens to open the entrance. Suddenly, they saw a dazzling white light in the sky between the Gemini Islands. It condensed into a wide door of light. Chapter 1162. When Xiao Chen and Xiao Linger saw the 2 figures, they were stunned. The 2 of them revealed an expression of disbelief. Xiao Chen even rubbed his eyes as if he had seen a ghost. After a long time, the door of white light disappeared. Only then did the 2 of them come back to their senses. The 2 of them looked at each other in dismay. Their expressions were very strange. Xiao Chen frowned and asked in a complicated tone, "Little sister Linger, did I see wrongly? Are they really those 2 people?" "Yes, yes." Xiao Linger nodded repeatedly. Her eyes flickered with excitement as she waved her little fists excitedly. "Great! I really hit the nail on the head. Young Master Tianqing really came to the Shao clan. I didn't expect that we would be able to meet again so soon." Xiao Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at her. He teased, "Little sister Linger, is your mouth blessed? How could you be right about such things? However, I am thinking, who exactly are they? It is impossible for outsiders to enter the Shao clan. Could they really be disciples of the Shao clan?" Xiao Linger's imagination ran wild. She suddenly thought of something and said, "Our Shao clan has existed for more than 1,000 years. We have already spread our branches and leaves and developed very strong. Perhaps their elders were once disciples of the Shao clan and left for the Central Province continent a few hundred years ago. Now that a few hundred years have passed, a peerless genius appeared among their juniors. Therefore, they wanted to return to the Shao clan to pay respects to the old ancestor. Shao Qian originally felt that it was very absurd. However, after thinking carefully, he nodded in agreement and said, "Yes, that is very possible. Little sister Ling you are still the smart one. Don't be in a daze. Let's go back quickly and find out who they are." Shao Ling grabbed his arm and impatiently flew to the Twin Islands to activate the formation door of light. The two of them took out their identity tokens and executed the Shao clan's formation techniques. Soon, they activated the barrier formation. After a while, a dazzling white light lit up in the middle of the Twin Islands and condensed into a wide door of light. The two of them quickly entered the door of light and disappeared with a whoosh. Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han flew side by side in the sky. They were not very fast. As they hurried, they admired the scenery around them. On the ground, there was a vast grassland that stretched as far as the eye could see. The grass was waist-high, and there were many small trees with flowers and fruits in the grass. 100 miles ahead was a majestic mountain range that stretched for nearly 1,000 miles. It was like a gray dragon lying on the ground. The sky was blue, and there were a few scattered white clouds floating in the sky. It was extremely tranquil. The heaven and earth spirit chi in the air was extremely dense, even condensing into patches of colorful clouds and thin mist, sprinkling down tiny drops of spirit liquid. While they were flying, Ji Tianqing couldn't help but exclaim in admiration, "I really didn't expect that in the depths of the barren and desolate great swamp of the southern wasteland, there would be such an otherworldly paradise with abundant natural powers." It was no wonder that the Shao clan was able to flourish and produce so many elites. The choice and decision of the Shao clan's patriarch was indeed bold and wise. Only in this way can a clan continue for 1,000 years without declining, and instead become more and more prosperous. Xiao Han slightly nodded and said with a smile, "Young Master Ji is overpraising me. This grotto heaven in the great swamp of the southern wasteland is indeed a paradise. But compared to the many wonders of the central state, it's not worth mentioning. As for our Shao clan's patriarch, he indeed has great wisdom and perseverance. I also deeply admire him for this." If the Shao clan were to emerge and compete with the three great ancient clans, it might be possible for the Shao clan to become the fourth great ancient clan. However, the Shao clan's patriarch once said that everything in the world follows the heavenly Tao. When things reach an extreme, they will move in the opposite direction. If the Shao clan were to participate in worldly affairs and fight for power, it's very likely that it would be destroyed in advance. That Duanmu Shi and the Murong clan are examples. They prospered for 1,000 years. Now, one has perished, and the other is declining. Thinking of this, the wisest choice for the Shao clan to live in seclusion in the great swamp of the southern wasteland. Unknowingly, the two had already flown 100 miles and arrived in the sky above the majestic mountain range. Ji Tianqing looked down at the mountain range below. He saw countless houses and palaces built on the mountain peak, forming many huge manors. In each manor, there were ancient-style palaces built. There were many guards and martial artists moving about. Behind the mountain range, there was a vast grassland. In the middle of the grassland, there were a few clear lakes that were as calm as mirrors. The surface of the lake sparkled. On the grassland around the lakes, there were all kinds of spirit beasts. There were white cranes, wind birds, flame rhinoceroses, golden-winged apes, and so on. It was obvious that the houses on the mountain peak that stretched for dozens of miles were where the Shao clan lived. And the grassland behind the mountain range was where the Shao clan reared their spirit beasts. Ji Tianqing roughly estimated that the manors on the mountain peak could house at least 5,000 to 6,000 people. It was obvious that the Shao clan was indeed a prosperous ancient clan. They had a very prosperous population. "Young Master Ji, we have arrived." Xiao Han stopped flying and landed on a huge manor on the mountain peak. That is Tingfeng Garden. It's also where my third uncle lives. In the past 100 years, I have only returned a few times. But every time, I stayed in third uncle's Tingfeng Garden. As they spoke, the two landed at the entrance of Tingfeng Garden. At the wide and solemn entrance, there were 6 guards in armor standing guard. They looked solemn and serious. After seeing Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han, one of the guards hurriedly came forward to greet them. He bowed respectfully and asked, "Elder, may I know which branch you are from? Who are you looking for in Tingfeng Garden?" Xiao Han took out an identity token and said solemnly, "I am from the third branch, Xiao Han. I am here to visit the third elder." Xiao Han. The guard was stunned for a moment. Then, he revealed a look of admiration and quickly bowed. "You are young Master Han from our third branch? The divine general who guards the Eastern Sea?" The guards were all excited, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. Obviously, they had heard of Xiao Han's reputation but had never seen him in person. Xiao Han nodded slightly and put away the token. He stepped through the entrance and entered Tingfeng Garden. As he walked into the manor, he did not forget to explain to Ji Tianqing, "The people who live here are all descendants of the Xiao clan. Even if they are strangers, they are still related by blood. Therefore, when people get to know each other, they will call themselves the descendants of so and so to distinguish them. There are many people in the Xiao clan. Other than the ancestor and grand elder, the 9 elders are usually in charge of the clan's affairs. My father and the third elder are cousins. The third elder is my uncle. Therefore, I am a descendant of the third branch. Ever since my parents passed away, third uncle has been taking care of me and teaching me cultivation. Third uncle is best at refining weapons. He is in charge of the clan's spiritual treasure hall. He is in charge of refining treasures for the clan. Unfortunately, third uncle's health has always been poor. He has hidden injuries that are difficult to heal. I have been worried but have not had the time to visit him. I am ashamed to say that." Chapter 1163. After a while, Ji Tianqing followed Xiao Han into the main hall of Tingfeng Garden. The guard went to report the news, and the two of them sat down in the main hall to drink tea and wait patiently. Not long after, the guard returned with a white-haired old man in a white robe. The old man was 6 feet tall, and his body was a little stooped. He held a walking stick in his hand, and his footsteps were a little unsteady. His face was withered and aged, and he looked like he had 1 foot in the grave and was on the verge of death. His weathered face was full of wrinkles, and his sunken eyes were a little dim. The aura of his magic power was also faintly discernible and very dim. Ji Tianqing could see that this old man was originally a transcendent expert in the spirit refinement realm. However, the old man was already old, and his body was plagued with internal injuries and hidden illnesses. His vitality was withered, and his soul power was weak. He did not have much time left. Seeing the old man in this state, Xiao Han immediately stood up with an expression of disbelief, and called out in a worried tone. "Third uncle. Your injuries, did they relapse?" As he spoke, he quickly went up and helped the white-haired old man to the main seat. The white-haired old man was the third elder. After he slowly sat down, his withered face squeezed out a smile, and he looked kindly at Xiao Han. He nodded and said, "Xiao Han, you're finally back. I haven't seen you for more than 20 years, and you haven't changed at all. Seeing that you're getting better and better, this old man is relieved." Cough, cough, cough. As he spoke, the third elder coughed violently. He used a handkerchief to cover his mouth, and a dark red bloodstain could be seen on the white handkerchief. It was a shocking sight. Xiao Han became more and more worried and hurriedly asked, "Third uncle, you've been recuperating in the clan all this time. Why did your injuries relapse and worsen? Did something happen?" The third elder forced out a kind smile and waved his hand. Nothing happened, it's just that I'm old and weak, and I can't take it anymore. Before he could finish, the guard beside him couldn't help but mutter, third elder's body isn't good to begin with, and when the clan needs a set of 6 directions magic treasure, third elder can only work hard to refine it, and because of this, his vitality is greatly damaged. Yet, those young masters and young ladies keep begging third elder to refine magic treasures for them so that they can get a good ranking in the Holy Fire Festival examination. This guard was the captain of the Tingfeng Gardens Guards and a trusted aide of the third elder. Of course, he knew the real reason. He was very clear about the third elder's injuries and situation. He was worried and angry, so he couldn't help but say it. The moment Xiao Han heard, he immediately frowned and said with a face full of anger, "This bunch of little brats are seriously too outrageous." In order to fight for a chance to leave the Xiao clan, he actually came up with such a method. No wonder third uncle's injuries worsened. What are the names of those brats? I'll go and settle the score with their elders. The guard quickly replied, "There's young Master Xiao Chong from the 2nd branch and young Miss Xiao Shui from the 5th branch." Without waiting for him to finish, the third elder raised his hand and interrupted him. "Shut up. The younger generation of disciples are working hard to cultivate. Isn't it to see the outside world? These little brats are all very outstanding. How can I bear to reject them? Xiao Han, don't pursue this matter anymore. Let them be. Third uncle. But your body." Xiao Han was still angry and refused to give up. The third elder lightly shook his head and said, "Let's not talk about this matter anymore. Xiao Han, you haven't introduced this person beside you to me. This is..." As he spoke, he turned his head to look at Ji Tianqing and a kind smile appeared on his old face. Xiao Han quickly introduced, "Third uncle, this is the young master Ji that I mentioned in the letter. The emperor's most valued Tianqian region lord and the most outstanding prince in the monarch's mansion." Ji Tianqing cupped his hands and bowed to the third elder. He said, "Junior Ji Tianqing greets third elder." The third elder's eyes instantly lit up. He nodded happily and said, "Good. As expected of the number 1 genius of the human race. What a heroic and extraordinary genius." Ji Tianqing smiled kindly and said modestly, "Third elder is too kind." The third elder leaned on his walking stick and said earnestly to Xiao Han, "Xiao Han, although everyone knows young Master Ji's identity, you can't mention it to anyone else in the Xiao clan. Regarding the matter of meeting the old ancestor, the other clan elders were against it. I tried my best to get everyone's agreement and allowed you to meet the old ancestor." Xiao Han nodded to show that he understood. He said, "Thank you, third uncle. We've troubled you." The third elder waved his hand and said, "However, the old ancestor will only meet you after the Holy Fire Festival. For the next few days, you can stay in the Tingfeng Garden and have a good rest." After that, the third elder ordered the guard beside him, "Bring them to the guest room." Xiao Han could only bow and take his leave. He brought Ji Tianqing out of the hall and followed the guard to the guest room in the side courtyard. After Xiao Han and Ji Tianqing left, the third elder couldn't help but cough a few times. His dry face became even more sallow. At this moment, another guard rushed to the entrance of the hall and reported respectfully, "Third elder, young Master Chen and young Miss Ling, have returned. They are outside the hall and are asking to see you." When the third elder heard this, he quickly wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said calmly, "Let them in." That guard turned and left. Soon, he brought a young man and a young woman into the hall. This young man and woman were Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling. After the two entered the hall, they stood in front of the third elder and bowed obediently with a smile on their faces. Chen greets third elder. Ling greets third grandpa. The third elder looked at the two of them kindly and nodded slightly. He said with a gratified tone, "The two of you are finally back. Fortunately, you are safe and sound. Did you find the cloud-spotted beast? Hearing this, Xiao Ling's expression changed. She asked subconsciously, "Third Grandpa, how did you know that we went to find the cloud-spotted beast?" The third elder stroked his white beard and said with a smile, "Do you think I don't know what you are thinking? Those little fellows came to me to refine magic treasures. How could you sit still? 2 days ago, I knew that the two of you went out, so I asked the guard to ask around. Naturally, I found out everything. The cloud-spotted beast is a powerful demonic beast with the strength of a soul refinement realm cultivator. The two of you were able to return safely. Could it be that you didn't even find the cloud-spotted beast?" Xiao Chen said with excitement and anticipation, "Third elder, we have already." Xiao Ling glared at him when he was halfway through his words. Then, she pretended to be disappointed and nodded. She said to the third elder, "Third Grandpa, you guessed right again. The cloud-spotted beast is so powerful. How could we find it so easily?" Chapter 1164. Xiao Ling's words did not arouse the third elder's suspicion. In his opinion, this was a reasonable thing. He nodded slightly and said with a smile, "With your strength, it is indeed impossible to kill the cloud-spot beast and obtain the refining materials. Sai, you two are too sensible. You are not like the little fellows in the other branches, who are begging their elders to help them gather materials. Unfortunately, without the corresponding materials, I cannot refine treasures for you. The two of you will have to be extra careful during the Holy Fire Festival." Xiao Chen was startled and could not help but reveal the truth. However, Xiao Ling glared at him again and quickly changed the topic. She asked the third elder, "Third Grandpa, Ling came to visit you today to ask about something. When we came back earlier, we saw two unfamiliar men, one old and one young, enter our Xiao clan. The middle-aged man was wearing a purple robe and the young man was wearing a white robe. They were very handsome. Third Grandpa, who are they? Why have Ling never seen them before?" The third elder's old face immediately revealed a gratified and proud expression. He nodded and said, "The two people you are talking about, I just met them. They are now living in Tingfeng Garden. The man in the purple robe is your uncle, your father's cousin. You should have heard of his name. He is Xiao Han, the pride of our third branch and the entire Xiao clan." Xiao Han. Xiao Chen's eyes widened, revealing a gaze full of worship and excitement. He said with a trembling voice, "The divine general of the eastern forest, Uncle Xiao Han, who guards the eastern sea border. He actually came back. That's great. I have heard of his legends since I was young and have always admired him. I hope that when I grow up, I can bring glory to my ancestors and guard the continent." Xiao Ling was also very excited and pleasantly surprised. She could not help but ask, "Oh my God. He is actually Uncle Xiao Han. I did not expect to see the divine general of the eastern forest." "That's right, Third Grandpa, where is the young man beside Uncle Xiao Han? Who is he?" The third elder smiled and nodded, "That is Xiao Han's nephew, Tianqing. He is a genius 10 times more outstanding than Xiao Han. It's really him." Xiao Ling was so excited that her eyes sparkled. She couldn't help but clench her little fists and think to herself with joy, "That's great. He's in Tingfeng Garden, and I'll be able to see him soon. Humph, Xiao Tianqing, I will definitely find you and get to know you again." The third elder saw their reactions and guessed their thoughts. He reminded them in a serious tone, "Xiao Han is returning to the Xiao clan this time to bring the top 2 disciples with him. The disciples who obtained the top 2 positions would serve under Xiao Han and receive his promotion and care. The two of you have to work harder and strive to be in the top 2 to gain Xiao Han's favor." However, they had just returned and needed a good rest. "If you want to see him, you'll have to wait until tomorrow." Xiao Linger hurriedly nodded. "Yes, Third Grandpa, don't worry. We'll surely not be rash and abrupt." Xiao Chen suppressed the excitement in his heart and nodded repeatedly. After that, the two of them bowed to the third elder and left the hall. After walking out of Tingfeng Garden, the two of them chatted as they walked. Xiaoqin couldn't help but ask, "Sister Ling why didn't you let me tell the third elder the truth just now?" Xiao Ling glared at him and said unhappily, "Are you stupid? Didn't you see that third grandpa's injuries have worsened and his complexion is even worse? Third grandpa refined the 6 harmonies magic treasure for the clan and also refined magic treasures for Xiao Shui and the rest. His vitality has been greatly damaged and his internal injuries have flared up. How can we cause trouble for third grandpa and let him refine magic treasures and worsen his injuries?" Xiaoqin frowned and said with a heart full of worry, "I also understand this logic. However, Xiao Shui and Xiao Chong both have magic treasures and we don't. When the time comes, we'll be at a disadvantage in the examination. If we can't obtain the top 2 positions, we'll lose the great opportunity to follow Uncle Xiao Han." Xiao Ling thought for a while and her quick-witted eyes turned. She immediately had an idea. "Xiao Chen, how about this? Tomorrow, we'll go pay a visit to Uncle Xiao Han and sound him out. If there's a chance, we'll hint to Uncle Xiao Han and let him set the rules of the examination. We're not allowed to borrow external forces or use magic treasures." Xiao Chen's eyes immediately lit up and he nodded repeatedly, "Hey, this idea is not bad. This is very fair to everyone." Just as he finished speaking, a disdainful sneer came from the front. "Hee hee. Only the weak have extravagant hopes for fairness." Suddenly hearing these words, Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling stopped in their tracks and raised their heads to look forward. They saw that on the bluestone road in front of them, there were 3 young men and women walking towards them. The young woman walking in the middle wore a blue dress and held a silver sword in her left hand. This woman was tall and had a cold temperament. However, her face was slightly ordinary and could only be considered average. She was the genius of the 5th branch, Xiao Shui. Following on her left and right were 2 handsome young men. The young man on the left wore a snow-white robe. His face was sickly pale and his eyes were gloomy and cold. He was the genius of the 2nd branch, Xiao Chong. He was also the one who sneered earlier. The young man on the right wore a fiery red robe. He was the genius of the 4th branch, Xiao Ku. He was tall and sturdy with a dignified appearance. His entire body emitted a valiant and wild aura. These 3 young men and women, in addition to Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling were the most outstanding geniuses of the Xiao clan's younger generation. Unfortunately, these 5 geniuses were divided into 2 factions. They were hostile and opposed to each other. They had to compete in everything. Xiao Chang's words made Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling furious. Their eyes turned cold. Xiao Chen shouted in a deep voice, "Xiao Chong, you dare to be arrogant in front of me with your little strength?" Xiao Chong leisurely stroked his collar. The corner of his mouth curled into a sinister sneer. He nodded and said, "That's right. I alone am enough to crush you. You're too arrogant. I must teach you a lesson today." Xiao Chen could not hold back his anger. He clenched his fist in anger and was about to attack. However, a light flashed in Xiao Chang's palm, and a crescent-shaped silver saber appeared. As Xiao Chong poured quintessence into the saber immediately expanded by 1,000 times. It turned into a huge saber that was 10 meters long and gave off a dazzling silver light. A strong wind swept up on the blue stone path. The berserk saber chi was pointed at Xiao Chen. "Xiao Chen, you can't even take one saber strike from me. Do you believe me?" Xiao Chen was immediately driven mad. However, due to the might of the silver saber, he did not dare to attack Xiao Chong. Xiao Ling cursed angrily, "Xiao Chong, you shameless despicable person. Aren't you just relying on the might of your magic treasure?" Chapter 1165. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling true strength was definitely not weaker than Xiao Chang's. In fact, they were even slightly stronger. However, a soul-ranked enchanted treasure could increase Xiao Chang's combat prowess by 2 to 3 times, completely suppressing the two of them. This was what they were most dissatisfied with and angered them the most. Xiao Chong controlled the 10-meter-long silver-breaking moon saber to hover above Xiao Chen's head, showing off his might. Xiao Chong revealed a cold smile and said proudly, "In our Xiao clan, only the old ancestor and the third elder can refine soul-ranked enchanted treasures. In the entire Xiao clan, there are less than 50 soul-ranked enchanted treasures. However, the third elder refined enchanted treasures for the 3 of us." What does this mean? It means that the 3 of us are outstanding enough to have soul-ranked enchanted treasures. As for the 2 of you, you can't even obtain the materials to refine enchanted treasures. You are even less qualified to get the third elder to refine one for you. Xiao Qin could not stand Xiao Chang's proud appearance. He was so angry that he laughed. "Xiao Chong, can you be any more shameless? Didn't you get the materials to refine enchanted treasures with the help of your elders? With your strength and courage, you don't even have the courage to step into the forbidden land of the swamp." The red-robed Xiao Ku immediately grinned coldly. "Ha! Our parents and elders were able to obtain the materials to refine enchanted treasures because they were strong enough. This is also our capital. Who asked your parents and elders to be trash? They can't even obtain soul-ranked enchanted treasures. How can you blame us for this? Ha ha ha." After Xiao Ku finished speaking, he exchanged glances with Xiao Chong and laughed proudly. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling were extremely enraged. Their bodies shone with quintessence as they roared and attacked. "Xiao Ku, you dare to insult my parents? You are seeking death. Xiao Chong, if you are still a man, put down the breaking moon saber and fight fairly." It looked like both sides were circulating their vast quintessence, about to execute their secret techniques to fight on the limestone path. Just at this moment, a dignified and angry shout came from the end of the path not far away. "Stop!" As that voice rang out, a purple-robed, middle-aged man walked out with a white-robed youth. The two walked side by side as if they were taking a stroll in the manor, enjoying the scenery and chatting. The middle-aged man was tall and straight, with a dignified appearance. His expression was cold and solemn, and his eyes were surging with a frightening light. His entire body exuded a powerful aura of a superior. His eyes swept across the 5 young geniuses indifferently as he shouted in a deep voice, "As disciples of the same clan, how dare you fight against each other within the clan? What is this?" Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku, Xiao Chen, and the others immediately stopped and turned to look at the purple-robed man. When Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling clearly saw the face of the purple-robed man, the anger that filled their hearts completely dispersed, and they revealed an expression that was filled with excitement and excitement. The 2 of them looked at the purple-robed man with shining eyes. They bowed respectfully and called him uncle. Without a doubt, the purple-robed man was Xiao Han. Xiao Chen stared at Xiao Han without blinking. His eyes were filled with worship and reverence. Xiao Linger's gaze instead descended onto Ji Tianqing, who was beside Xiao Han, and she carefully sized him up. Although Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku and Xiao Shui did not recognize Xiao Han, they knew that he was an elder of the Xiao clan. The 3 of them stopped and withdrew their weapons and magic treasures. Xiao Chong glanced at Xiao Han and looked at Xiao Chen with contempt. He shouted in a low voice, "Xiao Chen, consider yourself lucky today. With an elder present, this young master will spare you this time. 3 days later, during the Holy Fire Festival's test, I will definitely defeat you in front of everyone and make you roll off the stage like a dog." After he finished speaking, he turned around and left with Xiao Ku and Xiao Shui, swaggering away. From the beginning to the end, they only glanced at Xiao Han and Ji Tianqing. They did not put the 2 of them in their eyes. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling were unable to restrain their anger. They were so angry that they gnashed their teeth. However, they could only suppress their anger in their hearts and could not vent it out. When Xiao Han saw that the matter had calmed down, he no longer cared about the youths. He brought Ji Tianqing along the bluestone path and strolled around the manor. As the two of them strolled, Xiao Han gave Ji Tianqing an apologetic smile. "Tianqing, I've made a fool of myself earlier." Ji Tianqing shook his head and chuckled, "It's nothing. It's normal for youths to be competitive. Moreover, the Xiao clan has many branches and the relationships between the younger generations are distant. It's inevitable that there will be some grudges and conflicts." Xiao Han nodded with some regret. "That's right. This is the trouble of a big clan. Back then, the young geniuses of my generation were also not convinced of each other's strength and secretly schemed against each other. However, the young geniuses of my generation were more shrewd and would not shed all pretense of cordiality in public like them. Perhaps, the Xiao clan is getting worse with each generation and will gradually decline and wither away." Ji Tianqing only smiled and did not say anything. The two of them walked half a circle around the manor. Just as they entered a garden, a guard quickly came over and reported to Xiao Han, "Lord Xiao Han, the great elder knows that you have returned and ordered me to send a message for you to meet him. He has something to discuss with you." Xiao Han was stunned for a moment. He turned to Ji Tianqing and said apologetically, "Tianqing, I'm sorry. I have to leave, it's fine. Go ahead and do what you need to do. I'll walk around by myself." Ji Tianqing nodded, indicating that he did not need to take it to heart. Xiao Han bade farewell and followed the guard to meet the great elder. Ji Tianqing strolled alone in the garden. He walked to the pavilion in the middle of the lake and sat down. He revealed a playful smile and seemed to be talking to himself, "Come out. There's no one else here." It was quiet all around. There was not a single person. He raised his eyebrows and stared at the rockery by the lake with playful eyes. He chuckled and said, "Miss, do you think that you can hide from the senses of a soul refinement expert?" As his voice fell, a graceful figure walked out from behind the rockery. It was a girl around the age of 20, wearing a yellow dress. She had a beautiful face and a cute temperament. It was Xiao Ling. She lowered her head timidly and pouted in a depressed mood. She took small steps towards the pavilion in the middle of the lake. After entering the pavilion, she stood in front of Ji Tianqing and bowed slightly. "Ling greets Big Brother Tianqing. Please forgive me, Big Brother Tianqing. Ling follows you without ill intentions. Ling just didn't expect that you were also a disciple of my clan. Ling was excited and wanted to thank you in person." Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and looked at her playfully. He thought to himself, "It seems that she has already found out about my identity and thinks that I'm Xiao Han's nephew." Xiao Ling was excited and nervous. Her eyes hid worry and anger. Her emotions were very complicated. She lowered her head slightly and held her dress with both hands. She looked like she wanted to say something but stopped. Chapter 1166. Ji Tianqing's attitude had always been casual, neither too close nor too far. He had the aloofness of a peerless genius, but also the dignity of an expert. To Xiao Ling this had a special attraction. She couldn't help but want to get closer to Ji Tianqing and understand him better. Especially when Ji Tianqing looked at her. His eyes were as clear as water, without any surprise or lust. This made her admire him even more, but also a little disappointed. After all, she was the publicly acknowledged #1 beauty in the Xiao clan, the most outstanding among the young women. Many young men in the Xiao clan admired her very much. Some were secretly in love with her, and some were openly pursuing and pestering her. Ji Tianqing saw that Xiao Ling was a little dazed, as if she was thinking about something. He asked, "Why did you follow me here?" Xiao Ling came back to her senses and answered subconsciously, "Of course, I want to thank you in person." Before she could finish, Ji Tianqing raised his hand and interrupted her. He asked again, "Other than that?" Xiao Ling was stunned for a moment, and her heartbeat inexplicably accelerated. She secretly looked at Ji Tianqing and asked tentatively, "Big brother Tianqing, can I sit down and chat with you?" Ji Tianqing thought for a moment and nodded. "Feel free." Xiao Ling was a little excited, and she sat down beside him with a face full of smiles. Ji Tianqing's easygoing and approachable made her feel relaxed and no longer nervous. She turned her head to look at Ji Tianqing and asked, "Big brother Tianqing, I heard that you are Uncle Xiao Han's nephew, but I have never seen you before. You didn't grow up in the Xiao clan, right?" "Of course not." Xiao Ling's eyes flickered with quick-wittedness. She asked, "Then can you tell me about the outside world? What's it like?" "The outside world." Ji Tianqing paused for a moment and smiled. "It's very exciting and very complicated." After saying that, he looked at Xiao Ling. "You seem to yearn for the outside world." "Of course." Xiao Ling nodded without hesitation and said, "It is not just me. Most of the Xiao clan disciples are not willing to stay here. They all want to go out and adventure. Men wanted to roam the world and establish their careers. They wanted to become a great hero like Uncle Xiao Han, a peerless expert. As for me, I just want to see the scenery outside, make more friends, and find the perfect lover in my heart." Ji Tianqing was stunned for a moment. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he said, "Miss Ling, it's not good for you to be so straightforward, right? Girls should be more reserved." Xiao Ling was also slightly embarrassed as she asked with a slightly red face, "Big brother Tianqing, do you think that I'm a little bold and unrestrained?" "That's not it," Ji Tianqing shook his head and said calmly, "You're just a simple and straightforward person." Xiao Ling nodded in agreement and said, "Third grandpa often says this as well. He even says that if I go outside, I'll surely suffer a loss. Unfortunately, I may not have the chance to see the outside world. My wish of more than 10 years is about to be shattered." Her tone was somewhat gloomy and sad. Her tone was somewhat helpless and angry. Ji Tianqing tilted his head and looked at her. "What's wrong? Are you worried that you won't be able to pass the exam and get into the top 2? So you also know about the Holy Fire Festival's exam?" Xiao Ling blinked her big eyes and said with a somewhat resentful tone, "Big brother Tianqing, actually, if everyone takes the exam fairly, I still have the confidence to get into the top 2. After all, my talent and strength can be ranked in the top 3 among the younger generation. However, Xiao Chong and Xiao Shui, those 3 fellows just now, they actually used magical artifacts to cheat." Speaking up to here, her tone was full of helplessness as she muttered, "You also know that a low-grade soul-level magical artifact is several times stronger than a magical artifact. Xiao Chen and I are only slightly stronger than Xiao Chong and the others. How could we possibly block the power of a magical artifact?" Ji Tianqing immediately understood her worry and anger. He asked despite knowing the answer, "Didn't you guys get the tailbone and eyeball of the cloud-spotted beast? Why didn't you let Third Elder refine a magical artifact for you?" Xiao Ling shook her head and said with a heart full of worry, "Third grandfather's internal injuries have relapsed. His condition is very bad. He is already in so much pain. How could we cause him more trouble?" Ji Tianqing asked back, "So, you would rather accept the result of failing the exam than aggravate Third Elder's injuries?" Xiao Ling nodded and said, "Xiao Chong and Xiao Shui aren't from the 3rd branch. Of course, they wouldn't care about Third Grandfather's condition. However, we can't do that." Hearing her say this, Ji Tianqing couldn't help but look at her again. A hint of admiration flashed through his eyes. Although this matter had nothing to do with him, the kindness and care of human nature was always worthy of praise and admiration. At this moment, the sound of footsteps suddenly came from the cobblestone path beside the lake. 2 handsome young men walked out side by side. As they walked, they whispered to each other. One of them was wearing a white robe, and the other was wearing a red robe. They were Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku. When Ji Tianqing raised his head and looked at them, they also stopped and saw Ji Tianqing and Xiao Ling in the pavilion. Xiao Chong was startled. His pale face immediately revealed a disdainful sneer. He said with a disdainful tone, "Oh my, everyone thought that the number one beauty, Xiao Ling was pure as ice and pure as jade. I didn't expect that Xiao Ling also had feelings for love. She met her lover in broad daylight and hid here to whisper sweet nothings. TSK TSK TSK. Xiao Chang's eyes were very sinister, and his tone was also very strange. It was unbearable. Xiao Ku glanced at Ji Tianqing and curled his lips. Xiao Ling there are so many young talents in the Xiao clan's main branch. For example, Xiao Chong and I, but you didn't choose any of them. In the end, you chose a branch disciple from outside. Aren't you inserting a flower into cow dung?" After saying that, he even cast a contemptuous look at Ji Tianqing and shouted coldly, "Brat, this is the Xiao clan. It's already an honor for you, a branch disciple, to be able to return here. You better behave yourself and don't have any improper thoughts. Otherwise, I'll throw you out." How could Xiao Ling tolerate the two of them slandering her like this? She stood up and scolded with a frosty face, "Xiao Chong, Xiao Ku. You two bastards, don't slander me and sully my innocence." Xiao Chong curled his lips and said with a strange tone, "Little sister Ling don't exaggerate. I didn't even touch the corner of your clothes. How can I sully your innocence? Could it be that I use my eyes? You. Xiao Chong, you're courting death." Xiao Ling was so furious that she almost went berserk. Dazzling true essence surged all over her body, and she was about to make a move immediately. As a pure girl, how could she be humiliated and molested in front of her like this? Chapter 1167. A bright light flashed in Xiao Ling's palm, and a dark golden sword appeared. She held the scabbard in her left hand and the sword hilt in her right hand. She was about to draw the sword in a fit of anger. At this moment, a warm and powerful palm pressed on the sword hilt and pushed the sword back into the scabbard. Xiao Ling turned her head and saw Ji Tianqing looking at her calmly. His eyes were as calm as water. She didn't know why, but when she saw Ji Tianqing's deep eyes, the anger and murderous intent in her heart instantly dissipated, and she calmed down. Ji Tianqing was still sitting on the stone bench in the pavilion. He glanced at Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku indifferently and asked Xiao Ling if I didn't guess wrongly, these two clowns pursued you before, but you rejected them, right? Xiao Ling was startled for a moment. She didn't understand what he meant, so she answered truthfully, "That's right. I would rather die than agree to such disgusting and despicable people like them." Ji Tianqing revealed an expression of deep understanding. He nodded and said, "That's indeed the case. Such small flies don't even have the qualifications to carry your shoes." Xiao Ling saw his serious face and couldn't help but blink her big clear eyes. Her heartbeat suddenly sped up, and she felt an inexplicable happiness and joy. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were so angry that their noses were crooked. They were so humiliated that their faces and ears turned red. Both of them flew into a rage. They glared fiercely at Ji Tianqing and scolded, "Brat, who are you? How dare you insult this young master? Wild brat from the outside, how dare you be so presumptuous in our Xiao clan? You're dead meat." No matter how the two of them scolded, Ji Tianqing's expression remained calm. His eyes were indifferent, as if he was looking at two ants. After the two of them scolded for a while and stopped to catch their breath, he said in a pitiful tone, "Two ant-like trash. You've become so deranged after being poked in your sore spot. How sad." Xiao Chang's face turned red with anger. He pointed at Ji Tianqing and shouted, "Brat, don't talk nonsense with this young master. If you have the guts, come to the arena with this young master. Let's fight in front of everyone. You're pissing me off. I'm going to break all 5 of your legs and make sure you don't have any descendants." Xiao Ku also hooked his finger at him and said provocatively, "Kid, if you're still a man, then fight with me." Xiao Ling couldn't bear to see the two of them being so arrogant. She couldn't bear to see the two of them profaning the Prince Charming in her heart. Instantly, killing intent surged violently from her entire body. Ji Tianqing was still as calm as ever, without the slightest hint of anger. Xiao Ling saw his reaction and asked doubtfully, "Big brother Tianqing, those two bastards provoked you like this. Could it be that you're not angry?" Ji Tianqing glanced at Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku with disdain. He said indifferently, "There are too many people who want to challenge me. If there aren't 100,000, there are at least 80,000. If I paid attention to every single one of them, wouldn't I be unable to do anything? Moreover, these two reptiles are not qualified for me to make a move. It's their honor for me to look at them." Ji Tianqing's expression was very serious. His tone was very certain and confident. It was as if he was stating a fact, a truth. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were so angry that they almost vomited blood. They were so angry that they almost went berserk. Xiao Ling felt that it made sense. She nodded in agreement and said, "I see. Looks like Big Brother Tianqing usually encounters this kind of trouble, right?" "Yes." Ji Tianqing nodded calmly and said, "After all, the entire continent knows of my reputation and deeds. Who knows how many young geniuses want to challenge me and make a name for themselves in one battle." Xiao Ling's eyes were filled with longing. She clenched her pink little fists excitedly. She couldn't imagine how awe-inspiring it would be for someone as famous as Ji Tianqing to be the center of attention wherever he went. This also made her look forward to the outside world even more. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were so angry that they laughed. Their faces were distorted. "Ha ha ha. I've lived for so long, but this is the first time I've seen such a shameless person. Kid, your ability to boast and be shameless is indeed the best in the world. It's really unprecedented and will never be surpassed." Xiao Ling, so this is the person you've chosen. I'm dying of laughter. The two of you will definitely become the shame of the Xiao clan. Just as the two of them were cursing angrily, a purple figure walked over from the small path. He arrived at the lakeside with one step. The newcomer was dressed in a purple robe. His figure was tall and straight, and his entire body emitted the aura of a superior, powerful and noble. He was Xiao Han. Of course, when he rushed over, he just happened to hear Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku's angry curses. "Shut up." Xiao Han stopped and stared at the two of them coldly. He shouted in a dignified tone. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku immediately turned around and looked at Xiao Han with unfriendly eyes. Because the other party was an elder and had decent strength, the two of them didn't say anything. However, the sneer and ridicule in their eyes couldn't be concealed. Xiao Han didn't say anything unnecessary. He pointed at Ji Tianqing in the pavilion and shouted angrily at the two of them, "Apologize to Tianqing." What? The two of them were stunned. They sneered and questioned Xiao Han with disdain. "Who are you? We're not from the third branch. Who are you to tell us what to do? Why should we apologize to him? That kid insulted us. We're waiting for him to apologize to us." Xiao Han furrowed his brows as a cold light flashed in his eyes. In the next instant, he raised his right hand, and his sleeves fluttered as he slapped out. Slap! The invisible slap landed on Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku's cheeks from 10 steps away. It made a crisp sound. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were both at Sky Origin Stage Level 5. However, they couldn't see how Xiao Han attacked. The left side of their faces swelled up like a pig's head. It was red and filled with blood. The two of them were stunned. They stared at Xiao Han in disbelief and shouted angrily, "How dare you hit me? You're from the third branch. How dare you punish us? I'll go to the law hall and ask for an explanation. My father is Xiao Zhan from the second branch. How dare you hit me? My father will never forgive you. The two of them didn't dare to attack Xiao Han. They covered their swollen cheeks and stared at Xiao Han fiercely. Xiao Han didn't say anything. He raised his right hand again and slapped them. Slap. This time, the two of them were prepared. They tried their best to back off, but they were still slapped on the right side of their faces. The right side of their faces swelled up like a pig's head. It was covered with dark red blood. The two of them were dizzy from the slap. They staggered and fell to the ground. They looked extremely embarrassed. The two of them were scared. They hurriedly got up from the ground and helped each other to leave the lake. Before they ran out of the garden, the two of them didn't forget to threaten Xiao Han. Just you wait. We'll remember this. The law elder will come to you soon. Just you wait. Xiao Han coldly shouted, go and find the law elder. Also, tell Xiao Zhan to come find me and ask for punishment. Chapter 1168. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were stunned. Even when they heard Xiao Han's name, they didn't take it to heart. The two of them endured the pain and humiliation as they stumbled out of the garden and left Tingfeng Garden. Xiao Han flicked his sleeves and gradually restrained his anger. He walked into the pavilion in the middle of the lake. Xiao Ling'er saw him and quickly stood up. She bowed obediently and said, Ling'er greets uncle. Xiao Han didn't take it to heart. He just nodded and walked to Ji Tianqing. He said apologetically, Tianqing, the first elder and I were discussing the Holy Fire Festival and delayed some time. I didn't expect that not long after I left, those two little bastards dared to humiliate you. I'm really sorry. Obviously, Xiao Han was worried that Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku would anger Ji Tianqing and cause him to harbor resentment. If he caused trouble in the Xiao clan, the entire Xiao clan wouldn't have peace. The Duanmu clan and Murong clan were examples. Xiao Han was very clear about Ji Tianqing's terrifying power. Fortunately, Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said calmly, you don't have to take it to heart. Among the younger generation, the one who can humiliate me hasn't been born yet. Xiao Han was stunned for a moment. He smiled and nodded. That's right. In this world, who has the right to humiliate you? Blame those two little bastards for being blind. They're really frogs at the bottom of a well. They actually dared to be so presumptuous. Tianqing, this matter is also because you're magnanimous and didn't lower yourself to their level. Xiao Ling'er stood at the side and stared at Xiao Han and Ji Tianqing with her big clear eyes. A hint of doubt flashed in her eyes. She was very smart. Of course, she could see that Xiao Han's attitude toward Ji Tianqing was very respectful. It didn't seem like a senior to a nephew. It was more like a friend of the same generation. This made her very confused. She couldn't understand the reason. Xiao Han secretly heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Ji Tianqing didn't take it to heart. He sat down beside Ji Tianqing and asked doubtfully, Tianqing, who is this lady? Why are you here? Ji Tianqing chuckled. Logically speaking, this lady is your niece. You should be more familiar with her than me, right? I was bored wandering around Tingfeng Garden alone, so I decided to chat with her when I saw her here. Xiao Han said awkwardly, I haven't been back for more than 20 years. How would I know these juniors? Xiao Ling'er was extremely quick-witted. She hurriedly bowed and explained, Uncle Xiao Han, I'm called Xiao Ling'er. My father is your cousin, called Xiao Jianlong. You should remember, right? Only then did Xiao Han come to a realization. Looking at Xiao Ling'er in disbelief, he said with a nod, so, it's Ilong's daughter. Who would have thought that after not seeing him for more than 20 years, Ilong's daughter has already grown up and is still so beautiful, this brat must have married a beautiful wife. Xiao Ling'er nodded repeatedly and said with a face full of pride, Uncle, you should also know my mother. She is Xiao Yingmin from the 9th branch. Xiao Han stroked his beard with a faint smile and nodded repeatedly, saying, "Of course I know. Back then, I cultivated with your parents. At that time, your father took great care of your mother, circling around her all day. I didn't think that the two of them really got married." Sigh, several decades have passed in a flash. Talking about the past, Xiao Han revealed a look of reminiscence, full of sighs and emotions. Ji Tianqing listened silently by the side, interjecting a sentence or two from time to adjust the atmosphere. Xiao Ling got familiar with Xiao Han very quickly, calling him uncle affectionately. Xiao Han was also rather fond of her and treated her like his own niece. Ji Tianqing saw that the time was ripe and said to Xiao Han, "Oh right, Miss Ling was still talking to me earlier, saying that she has something to ask of you. Now that you're all present, let Miss Ling tell you personally." Xiao Han nodded with a smile and asked, "Ling what is it? Feel free to say it." "Ah." Xiao Ling was also stunned. She stared blankly at Ji Tianqing and thought to herself, "When did I say these words to him?" Ji Tianqing smiled at her and reminded her, "Miss Ling didn't you say just now that the Holy Fire Festival's assessment is unfair and that some people can borrow the power of Dharma treasures?" Xiao Ling suddenly understood and cast a grateful look at him. She nodded repeatedly and said, "Yes, that's it." She grabbed Xiao Han's arm and pleaded pitifully, "Uncle, I heard that you're in charge of supervising this year's Holy Fire Festival's assessment, and you also have to guide the top 2 disciples in the assessment. I don't ask you to help me with anything, but I hope that you can change the assessment rules and prohibit everyone from using Dharma treasures. This will be fair to everyone." Xiao Han frowned and asked, "Ling the Holy Fire Festival is a tradition of the Xiao clan, and the assessment is also a rule set by the old ancestor. How can I have the authority to change it? Why don't you tell me what happened?" Thus, Xiao Ling narrated the whole story of the matter in full detail. After Xiao Han finished listening, he frowned with a grave expression. No wonder the third elder's condition is so bad. This is really infuriating. But the third elder doesn't know that 2 of the 3 juniors he helped with heart are mischievous villains. After a moment of silence, he sighed with a heart full of worry and said, "Ling I can understand your feelings, but I can't do anything about changing the assessment rules. The third elder's body is already so bad, and he definitely can't help you refine Dharma treasures. How about this, I'll help you refine Dharma treasures." "No, it's the Holy Fire Festival 3 days later. I can't make it in time even if I rush now." "Ah." Xiao Ling immediately revealed a face full of disappointment and said with tears in her eyes, "Uncle, you're the Donglin Divine General. Could it be that even you can't help us?" Sigh. Xiao Han sighed deeply and was somewhat helpless. Ji Tianqing timely interrupted and reminded, "Lord Divine General, you have so many soul tools and Dharma treasures. You can temporarily lend 2 to them." "That won't do." Xiao Han and Xiao Ling rejected in unison. Xiao Ling pouted and said, "If we do that, it's also cheating. The nature is even worse than Xiao Chong and Xiao Shui." Xiao Han also nodded and said, "Yes, the assessment rules are that we can't rely on external forces, including other people's Dharma treasures and spirit pets." Ji Tianqing nodded slightly, indicating that he understood. He suddenly thought of something and raised his eyebrows and asked, "Lord Divine General, since the assessment rules can't be changed, then if Miss Ling wants to win, she must use Dharma treasures. Moreover, this Dharma treasure can only come from the third elder. Only this way can it be considered fair and not cause controversy, right?" Xiao Han nodded and said, "That's right, exactly so. However, you've also seen the third elder's body condition." Ji Tianqing revealed an unfathomable smile and said with a playful tone, "If the third elder's injuries suddenly recover and he can recover his vitality tonight, then can he refine 2 Dharma treasures before the Holy Fire Festival?" Xiao Han said with a certain tone, "This isn't a problem. The third elder has studied refining for his entire life. It's not difficult to refine 2 low-grade soul-rank Dharma treasures within 3 days. However, even I'm helpless with the third elder's injuries. How can he suddenly recover? Chapter 1169. Ji Tianqing looked at Xiao Han and revealed a confident smile. Miracle? I'm the best at creating miracles. Xiao Han was stunned for a moment and looked at him in disbelief. Tianqing, can you cure third elder's injury? Xiao Ling was also shocked and looked at him expectantly. Ji Tianqing nodded and asked with a smile, General, have you heard of Miracle Dr. Bailey? Xiao Han didn't know the inside story and answered honestly, of course I have. Miracle Dr. Bailey is a famous miracle doctor in the continent. He has miraculous skills and can bring the dead back to life. Ji Tianqing smiled and said, there's something you might not know. I'm Miracle Dr. Bailey's disciple. Ah! Xiao Ling suddenly exclaimed and her clear eyes were filled with joy. That's great. Brother Tianqing is Miracle Dr. Bailey's disciple. He can definitely cure third grandfather. Xiao Han also came back to his senses and revealed a gratified expression. He smiled and said, Tianqing, if you can cure third elder, I and the disciples of the third branch will remember this kindness. Thank you so much. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said, it's too early to talk about gratitude. Let's go take a look at third elder's injury first. After that, the 3 of them left the garden and returned to Tingfeng Garden. Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han went to see third elder to check on his injury. Xiao Ling was a junior and couldn't help much. She could only wait in the front yard and patiently wait for the results. Third elder knew Ji Tianqing's true identity and heard that he was Miracle Dr. Bailey's disciple. Naturally, he trusted him. In the secret cultivation room, he calmly accepted Ji Tianqing's examination. Moreover, he told Ji Tianqing the reason and process of his hidden injury in detail. 100 years ago, he was exploring the ancient ruins in the depths of the Great Swamp and encountered a few life and death crises. There were powerful arrays and traps in the ancient ruins. He accidentally triggered them and was severely injured and almost lost his life. In addition, he also encountered a powerful and special demonic beast. He was beaten to death and barely escaped. That demonic beast contained a strong poison that corroded his internal organs and meridians, almost turning him into a pool of blood. Ever since he escaped that disaster, he had been quietly recuperating for the past few decades to slowly alleviate his injury. However, the injury that year affected his internal organs and soul and was basically difficult to heal. Usually, he had to use more than half of his power to suppress his injury. In the past year, he had consumed too much of his energy and his old qi was damaged. Of course, his old injury. Moreover, the injury had relapsed, and the situation had become very bad. The third elder estimated that with the condition of his body, he would not live for more than 3 years. Hearing this, Xiao Han was immediately filled with worry. He asked Ji Tianqing, Tianqing, are you confident in curing third elder? Ji Tianqing thought about it seriously, then nodded and said, I have 90% confidence. That's great. Xiao Han secretly clenched his fist and excitedly praised. The third elder also felt that it was inconceivable. His old face was flushed with excitement. Tianqing, can I really be saved? Ji Tianqing nodded and smiled. Third elder, you don't have to worry. Although your injury is troublesome, it is not an incurable disease. Please lie on the cold ice jade bed and enter a state of deep sleep. I have to start treating your injury as soon as possible. The third elder saw the hope of life. Of course, he was full of excitement and expectation. He lay on the cold ice jade bed according to his instructions. Xiao Han rubbed his hands excitedly and quickly asked, Tianqing, do you need my help? Ji Tianqing shook his head and said, no need. You can wait outside the secret room. Don't let anyone disturb me. Okay, don't worry. Xiao Han nodded and quickly left the secret room to guard outside the door. In the dark secret room, only Ji Tianqing and the third elder were left. The third elder had entered a state of deep sleep and isolated all his senses. This way, he wouldn't feel any pain when Ji Tianqing treated his injury. Ji Tianqing first used the secret technique of the Wood Emperor's umbrella to treat the third elder's injury. Then, he transferred boundless greenwood magic power to the third elder and fed him a few soul-grade elixirs. After the third elder's injury was mostly healed, he used the heaven-mending pearl to remove the remaining poison in the third elder's body and repair his internal organs and soul. This process was very slow and would take a long time. But he had enough patience to treat the third elder's injury bit by bit. Unknowingly, for hours had passed and night had fallen. In the manner of the Shao clan's second branch, the lights were brightly lit. In an antique study, a middle-aged man in a purple robe was sitting. This man was tall and sturdy and had a dignified appearance. He had a mustache and exuded the aura of an expert. He was the son of the second branch's elder, Shao Zhan, the next elder's successor. He was engrossed in reading a book when the study's door was opened. A young man with swollen cheeks like a pig's head walked into the study with weak steps. His entire body was wrapped in anger and resentment. "Father, you must avenge me." The young man was Shao Chong. He walked quickly to Shao Zhan and shouted angrily. His tone and eyes were filled with anger and resentment. Shao Zhan put down the book in his hand and turned to look at Shao Chong. He frowned when he saw Shao Chong's miserable appearance. "Chong, what happened to you? Who beat you up like this?" Shao Chong's eyes surged with cold light. He gritted his teeth and cursed, "It's the bastard from the third branch. He sided with Shao Ling and Shao Ling's lover and beat me and Shao Ku, bastard." Shao Zhan slammed the table in anger and shouted angrily, "The third branch is too presumptuous. How dare they beat up my son? Chong, do you know that person's name? Tell me, I won't let him off." Shao Chong thought for a moment and quickly replied, "That guy is an elder from the third branch. I think he's called Shao Han." "What did you say?" Shao Zhan's eyes widened. He asked in a panicked tone, "You said the person who beat you is called Shao Han?" "That's right. It's that bastard." Shao Chong didn't notice the change in his father's expression. He still cursed angrily, "That bastard is too arrogant. He beat us up in front of Shao Ling and her lover and even clamored for us to kneel down and apologize. He even said that he wants you to find him and apologize. This guy is really crazy. Who does he think he is?" Shao Zhan's expression changed drastically. He shouted in a deep voice, "Shut up. You bastard, are you crazy?" Shao Chong raised his head in confusion and asked, "Father, what's wrong with you? Did you take the wrong medicine? That bastard beat me up and humiliated you. Why are you scolding me?" Shao Zhan furiously raised his right hand and slapped Shao Chong's face with a "pa" sound. Chapter 1170. Shao Chong was slapped in the face and fell to the ground. His face was already swollen like a pig's head, and after being slapped by Shao Zhan, it split open and started bleeding. He fell to the ground and covered his bleeding face with his hands, looking at Shao Zhan in disbelief. "You hit me. That bastard from the third branch hit me, and not only did you not avenge me, you hit me. You don't deserve to be my father." Shao Chong was trembling with anger. He stared at Shao Zhan with cold eyes and roared in a low voice. Shao Zhan was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He stood up with a bang, and his whole body was filled with rage. He scolded in a low voice, "Bastard, are you still so stubborn? Wake up for me and think carefully about the name, Shao Han." "What do I have to think about?" Shao Chong stared back at him and roared even more furiously, "Isn't he just a bastard from the third branch? Isn't he just living for a few more decades? You always brag about how powerful you are, but now that your son is being bullied, you don't even dare to fart. You only dare to hit me. I'm going to tell my mother, and I'm going to the law hall to ask the law elder to judge for me." As he spoke, Xiao Chong got up from the ground and was about to rush out of the study. "Get back here." Xiao Zhan was so angry that his face turned purple. He waved his sleeves and pulled Xiao Chong back. He grabbed Xiao Chong's collar and shouted angrily, "Xiao Chong! Are you trying to get us killed? Calm down and think about who Xiao Han is. He's the pride of the Xiao clan, the pillar of the Xiao clan. Is he someone you and I can offend?" The agitated Xiao Chong suddenly thought of something when he heard Xiao Zhan's reminder. "Xiao Han. Xiao Han. Is he that Dong Lin divine general?" Xiao Zhan shouted in a cold voice, "Nonsense. Who else could it be? It's him." Xiao Chong was dumbfounded. He stood there with his mouth agape, and the anger in his heart disappeared. It was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over his head. He felt cold from head to toe, and even his back was cold. Xiao Han was the pride of the Xiao clan. He was also a peerless expert that was worshipped by the younger generation. Most importantly, the top 2 scorers of the Holy Fire Festival would be brought out of the Xiao clan by Xiao Han to receive care and training. However, he had already made a mistake and had been slapped twice by Xiao Han. However, he still clamored at Xiao Han and refused to let him off. He even wanted to look for the law elder to reason things out. After such a thing had happened, what was Xiao Han's impression of him? Would he still support and nurture him? Thinking of this, Xiao Chong suddenly collapsed on the chair and murmured in a daze, "This is impossible. How was this possible? How could there be such a coincidence? Why? He had not returned to the Xiao clan for decades. Why did he return today? He didn't know Xiao Linger at all, so why would he protect Xiao Linger? No. I can't accept this." Xiao Zhan also gradually calmed down. With a grave expression, he said, "Chonger, tell me everything that happened. Don't leave out anything." Xiao Chong was filled with fear. Of course, he did not dare to hide the truth, nor did he dare to exaggerate. He could only tell the truth. After he finished telling the whole story, Xiao Zhan heaved a sigh of relief. He nodded and said, "Although you and Xiao Ku are at fault, there is still room for redemption. This is a grudge between you, Xiao Ku, Xiao Linger, and Xiao Tianqing. It is a matter of the younger generation. Fortunately, you did not directly clash with Xiao Han. Now, follow me to Tingfeng Garden and apologize to Xiao Han in person." "Ah!" Xiao Chong was stunned. He said in disbelief, "Father, are we really going to swallow this and apologize to Xiao Han? There are so many people in the clan watching. If we go and apologize, this matter will spread throughout the Xiao clan tomorrow. At that time, we will be the laughingstock of the entire clan. We will be ridiculed for life." Xiao Zhan glared at him angrily and scolded, "Bastard! Until now, do you still not understand the importance of this matter? Compared to the status and resources we already have, what is this little bit of face? Besides, how could it be considered shameful to offer a humble apology to Divine General Dong Lin? Not only us, who in the 9th branch can afford to offend him." Xiao Chong was silent. He was still hesitating. Xiao Zhan did not allow him to think too much. He grabbed his neck and dragged him out of the study, rushing to Tingfeng Garden. Tingfeng Garden was brightly lit. The night was quiet. Xiao Han was standing in a dark stone passage. Behind him was the door to the secret chamber. He had been waiting outside the secret chamber for a few hours. He paced back and forth, praying silently in his heart, "Tianqing, you must succeed. Third uncle's health is deteriorating. The 3rd branch's position is in danger. If you can cure third uncle's injury, then you can let the 3rd branch continue to exist, and you can also fulfill my wish." At this moment, a guard hurried over and reported respectfully, "Divine General, there is someone in the main hall who wishes to see you." Xiao Han raised his eyebrows and asked, "Who wants to see me in the middle of the night?" The guard replied truthfully, "It is Xiao Zhan from the second branch. He brought his son Xiao Chong. They said they are here to apologize to you." The father and son are both shirtless and carrying thorns on their backs. They are kneeling in the main hall. Xiao Han frowned and thought for a moment. Ignore them. Let them kneel for a while. He was only worried about the third elder's injury. He could not be bothered with the father and son. The guard hurriedly turned and left, not daring to disturb him. Very quickly, another 2 hours had passed. There was still no movement in the secret chamber. Xiao Han was still pacing back and forth, anxiously waiting. At this time, the guard returned and reported to Xiao Han again, reporting to Divine General, "There are 2 more people here to see you." Xiao Zhan frowned unhappily and asked, "Who is it this time?" The guard replied, "It is Xiao Ku and his son. They are also shirtless and carrying thorns on their backs. They are kneeling in the main hall and asking for forgiveness." Xiao Han frowned and sneered disdainfully, "These guys are quite sensible. They really don't care about their reputation and come here to apologize. Since that is the case, I will teach them an unforgettable lesson." After that, he instructed the guard, "Go and tell them to kneel in the main hall until dawn. They are not allowed to leave. Tell them to take care of their own children. Don't be a tyrant in the Xiao clan. Otherwise, sooner or later, they will be in big trouble." The guard acknowledged the order and hurriedly left. Xiao Han did not take this matter to heart. He continued to pace outside the secret chamber, paying attention to the movements in the secret chamber. He silently calculated in his heart. Ji Tianqing had said that he could cure the third elder's injury before dawn. It was already dawn. In another 4 hours, the sun would rise. Chapter 1171. The night was dark and the cold wind was blowing. The main hall of the Tingfeng garden was quiet. The gemstone lamp on the wall was shining with a dim yellow light. There were 4 guards outside the door. There were no guards inside the main hall, but there were 4 men kneeling in the middle of the hall. The 4 of them were bare-chested. Their hair was loose behind their backs and there were several thorny vines on their backs. They were led by 2 middle-aged men. They were both in the 7th or 8th level of Sky Origin stage. They looked dignified and extraordinary. They were the fathers of Xiao Zhan and Xiao Ku. The other 2 young men had swollen cheeks like balloons. They looked embarrassed and funny. Without a doubt, they were Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku. Xiao Zhan and Xiao Ku's fathers were kneeling in front. Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku were kneeling behind their fathers. The 4 of them were kneeling without moving. They lowered their heads and looked like they were waiting to be punished. The cold night wind blew into the hall, messing up the 4 people's hair. The cold air assaulted their bodies, causing them to shiver uncontrollably. However, they did not dare to move. The 4 of them looked terrible. Their emotions were complicated and their eyes kept changing. The reason why they had such a reaction was because a guard had come to convey Xiao Han's message. Damn Xiao Han. He didn't want to see us and made us kneel until dawn. Xiao Zhan whispered and said angrily, "Even if he is the Donglin Divine General, he is still a disciple of the Xiao clan. We can't forget our roots. He can show off outside, but he dares to be so arrogant in the clan. He has gone too far." Xiao Ku's father also agreed. He whispered, "This is just a grudge between the younger generation. Is there a need to make it so serious? Xiao Han is too protective. He humiliated us in order to protect his nephew." Xiao Zhan said with a gloomy expression, "I originally thought that Xiao Han would forgive us just because we came to ask for forgiveness and put on an act. That would be the end of this matter. I didn't expect Xiao Han to be so heartless. He made us kneel for a whole night. When news of this spreads, everyone in the clan will laugh at us. Xiao Ke's father smiled bitterly and whispered, "But we are already here. We can't just leave, can we? If that's the case, not only will we be humiliated for nothing, this matter won't be resolved, and will offend Xiao Han even more." Xiao Zhan sighed and said, "Yeah. Since we've already come to confess, we should finish what we started. I hope we can resolve this matter completely. There are still 4 more hours before daybreak. Let's endure it a little longer." Xiao Ke's father nodded and remained silent. Behind the two of them, Xiao Chong and Xiao Ke were also communicating with their eyes and discussing with each other via voice transmission. "Xiao Ke, what happened to your face? Why are your injuries more serious than before? Don't mention it. I went back and told my father about this and asked him to avenge me. I didn't expect him to slap me twice in anger." "Xiao Chong, aren't you the same?" "Humph. It's all that bastard Xiao Han's fault. He hasn't come back for over 20 years, but he suddenly came back yesterday. He's a senior, a dignified divine general of the East Woods, but he dares to attack a junior. He doesn't care about his status at all. He doesn't have the demeanor of an expert at all. Yes. Xiao Han, this fellow was too overprotective. He was simply unreasonable. Unfortunately, he has a high position and great power. None of us can afford to offend him. I'm so angry." "Humph. We can't afford to offend Xiao Han, but can't we afford to offend his nephew? That guy called Tian Xing looked like an idiot who had a golden exterior but was actually rotten inside. That guy only knows how to boast and deceive girls with flowery words. He doesn't even have the guts to fight with us. What a piece of trash. What ability does he have? Isn't he just relying on Xiao Han's protection? He actually dares to show off in our clan and seduce Xiao Linger. He deserves to die. Xiao Ke, we have to find a chance to teach that guy a lesson these few days. We have to make him lose face and run out of the Xiao clan with his tail between his legs. That's right. I also hate him to the core. I can't wait to step on him and crush him to death in front of everyone. But, we have to plan carefully. We can't leave any evidence behind. Otherwise, Xiao Han will punish us again. Let's meet up tomorrow and find a few more brothers to discuss this matter together." 2 pairs of father and son and 4 Sky Origin stage experts knelt in the main hall silently, each with their own thoughts. Time passed silently, and 4 hours passed very quickly. The sky outside the main hall finally lit up. The sky was bright. The 2 pairs of father and son had knelt in the main hall for the whole night. Their hearts were filled with anger and resentment. Seeing that the sky was finally bright, the 4 of them were finally free. They all let out a long breath. They quickly got up and walked out of the main hall. They left Tingfeng Garden as if they were escaping. At the same time, Xiao Han, who was pacing back and forth outside the secret chamber, finally stopped. The heavy door of the secret chamber suddenly made a muffled sound and slowly opened. Xiao Han immediately turned around and looked into the secret chamber with bright eyes. His face was full of anticipation. When the door of the secret chamber opened, Ji Tianqing, who was wearing a white robe, walked out tiredly. Xiao Han quickly went up to him and asked expectantly, "Tianqing, how is it?" Ji Tianqing nodded and smiled. "Third Elder's injuries are 80% healed. It's not a big problem. He will be completely healed after a few more months of rest." Hearing this, Xiao Han's eyes lit up and he clenched his fists excitedly. "That's great. Tianqing, you are indeed the disciple of the godly doctor. You actually cured Third Elder's hidden injuries that have troubled him for more than 100 years. Thank you so much. I, Xiao Han, will remember your kindness in my heart and will never forget it." As he spoke, Xiao Han sincerely bowed to him, expressing his most sincere gratitude. Ji Tianqing helped him up and smiled. "You don't have to be so courteous. You helped me enter the Xiao clan and I helped you to cure Third Elder. This is also my way of returning the favor. Alright, I'll leave the rest to you. I'm going back to my room to rest. Alright. You must have been tired last night. I'll send someone to bring you to rest. Xiao Han quickly called for a guard and brought Ji Tianqing to rest. He then entered the secret chamber to check on Third Elder's condition. He saw that Third Elder was still lying on the ice bed in deep sleep. His entire body was wrapped in a layer of faint green light. His originally aged skin had regained its jade-white luster. His withered and yellow face had also become younger by a few decades. It was as though he had regained his youth. The hidden injuries and deadly poisons hidden in his body had all been removed. Not only that, Third Elder's strength had also recovered to its peak state. His aura was very stable and powerful. He was like a normal second-level soul cultivation realm expert. There was no difference. Before last night, he was still in his twilight years with only 3 years of life left. But now, he was full of energy and vitality. It would not be a problem for him to live another 500 years. This was simply an unbelievable miracle. Chapter 1172. Not long after, the green light on Third Elder's body dissipated. He woke up from his deep slumber and slowly opened his eyes. Xiao Han hurriedly approached him and asked with concern, "Third uncle, you're finally awake. How do you feel?" It was as if the Third Elder had fallen asleep. He didn't know what had happened. Where's Tianqing? Has the treatment ended? He sat up from the frozen jade bed, moved his limbs, and used his soul to check the condition of his body. With one look, he was instantly stunned. Oh my God! My injuries are all healed. Isn't this too unbelievable? Where's Tianqing? Did he really heal all of my injuries? The Third Elder let out a cry of surprise as he touched his body to check the condition of his body. He also found that his skin was no longer old, and his appearance had returned to his youth. Even the magic power in his body was surging, and his vitality was boundless. Even if he lived for another 500 years, he would not age like before. Such a huge change made him so excited that he could not control himself. He was so excited that his face was flushed red, and his eyes were covered with a layer of mist. If it did not happen to him, how could he believe in such a miracle? Third Elder was so excited that he could not control himself. He jumped down from the frozen jade bed, grabbed Xiao Han's arm with both hands, and said excitedly, "Xiao Han. Third uncle has been tormented by hidden injuries for more than 100 years. I always thought that I would reach the end of my life after 300 years. This is too unbelievable. Tianqing actually saved me. I don't have any injuries on my body, as if I've returned to my youth." Seeing Third Elder so excited, Xiao Han also felt the same. He nodded and said, "Third uncle, Tianqing is not only the #1 genius of our clan, but also the #1 genius of the entire Tianxian continent. He has already created countless miracles, and now he healed your injuries in one night. I'm not afraid of you laughing at me, but no matter what miracles he creates, I won't be surprised. Because, I've already been shocked to the point of numbness by the various miracles he has created." The Third Elder nodded his head repeatedly and exhorted in a solemn tone, "Xiao Han, you are the most outstanding disciple of our Xiao clan in the past 300 years. You are also the pride of our clan. However, it's your fortune to be able to befriend Tianqing. It's also our Xiao clan's fortune. Let me warn you, you must maintain a good relationship with him in the future. No matter what, don't offend him." Xiao Han chuckled and shook his head, "Third uncle, you worry too much. Tianqing is definitely not a fish in a pond. One day, he will transform into a true dragon and soar into the 9 heavens. Why would I offend him for no reason? Moreover, I know Tianqing's character the best. As long as we don't challenge his bottom line, he won't be our enemy." Hearing him say so, Third Elder was relieved and hurriedly urged, "Xiao Han, quickly bring me to see Tianqing. I must thank him in person. As he spoke, he pulled Xiao Han and was about to leave the secret chamber. Halfway through, he suddenly thought of something. Oh, right. We can't go empty-handed. I have to prepare a generous gift to show my sincerity. Xiao Han hurriedly pulled him and persuaded with a smile, "Third uncle, Tianqing was busy last night and consumed too much of his spiritual power. He is now recuperating and adjusting his breath. Even if you want to thank him in person, you have to do it another day, right?" Third elder was stunned for a moment. He slapped his forehead and said with a wry smile, "Oh, that's true. Look at my memory. I'm so old and muddle-headed that I forgot about it when I was happy. All right, let Tianqing rest for a day. Tomorrow, you accompany me to thank him in person." Xiao Han thought for a moment and said with a smile, "Third uncle, Tianqing told me before that after you wake up, you should refine magic weapons for Ling, and Chen first. The Holy Fire Festival is in 2 days. If you delay any longer, I'm afraid it will be too late." This. Third elder was stunned for a moment and said with some hesitation, "It's not a problem to refine magic weapons for them, but if I want to thank Tianqing in person, won't I have to postpone it for a few days?" Xiao Han nodded and said, "Yes, this matter is not urgent. You can refine magic weapons for the 2 juniors first. All right, then tell them to bring the materials to see me in the workshop." Third elder also knew the importance of this matter and hurriedly instructed Xiao Han. Xiao Han responded and hurriedly sent someone to inform Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling. Then, he accompanied third elder and rushed to the workshop in the depths of Tingfeng Garden. In a courtyard in the corner of Tingfeng Garden. It was early in the morning. A few young men and women were practicing sword techniques in the courtyard. There were also a few older young men and women sitting cross-legged under the great banyan tree, quietly meditating and practicing. These were the Shao clan's disciples from the third branch. All of them were outstanding talents with high martial talent. Xiao Ling, and Xiao Chen were the leaders of the third branch. They were also the most outstanding geniuses. At this moment, the two of them were standing under the roof, observing their younger brothers and sisters practicing sword techniques while conversing softly. Xiao Chen looked at Xiao Ling, and asked with a heart full of expectation, "Sister Ling, did that young master really say that?" "Of course." Xiao Ling nodded and said with a frown, "What do you mean by that young master?" "His name is Tianqing." "He has a name, okay." Tianqing did not put Xiao Chong and Xiao Ku in his eyes at all. I can see that Tianqing looked at them as if he was looking at 2 ants. I swear on my character that he was not deliberately mystifying them. His contempt came from the bottom of his heart and soul. Only a peerless genius would have such confidence. Confidence and arrogance that comes from the soul. Xiao Chen scratched his head and said with some hesitation, "We have all seen Tianqing's strength with our own eyes. He is indeed a transcendent spirit refinement realm expert. Even if you say that he is the #1 genius in the world, I will not deny it. However, third grandpa is already injured to such an extent. How can Tianqing cure him? Tianqing is so young. Even if his martial talent is extraordinary, is he proficient in medicine? Third grandpa's internal injuries have been for more than 100 years. So many elders and experts in the clan could not cure him. How can Tianqing do it?" Xiao Ling glared at him unhappily and shouted angrily, "Xiao Chen. Which side are you on? Don't you want third grandpa to get better?" "Humph. I think you are just jealous of big brother Tianqing. You are jealous that he is more handsome, younger, and stronger than you." Xiao Chen's face immediately turned green as he looked at her speechlessly. At this moment, a guard rushed over and reported respectfully, "Miss Ling, young Master Chen, Lord Divine General summoned you to the forging workshop. Lord Divine General has instructed you to bring the materials for refining weapons, and Third Elder will immediately refine the magic weapons for you." Suddenly hearing this news, Xiao Ling and Xiao Chen were dumbfounded. They were petrified on the spot. After a moment, Xiao Ling was the first to recover. She immediately jumped up in excitement and cheered excitedly. Wow! Big brother Tianqing really did it. He really cured third grandpa. Xiao Chen's eyes widened in shock. His face was filled with disbelief. He looked up at the sky with lifeless eyes and cried out involuntarily, "Oh my God! That guy actually created a miracle. He is so strong and his medical skills are so heaven-defying. Is he still human?" As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Ling glared at him and even stomped on his foot. "Hey! How can you say that? If Big Brother Tianqing is not human, then what is he?" After saying that, she angrily flung her sleeves and stepped out of the house, walking out of the courtyard. Chapter 1173. Xiao Chen explained to Xiao Ling along the way. Unknowingly, they arrived at the blacksmithing workshop. Just as the two of them arrived at the entrance of the workshop, they saw 4 guards standing guard outside the door. The place was heavily guarded. Spiritual energy fluctuations kept coming from the blacksmithing workshop. There were also surging berserk earth flame essence chi flickering continuously. Clearly, the previously quiet blacksmithing workshop was finally going to start refining. The last bit of worry in Xiao Chen's heart vanished without a trace. When Xiao Chen followed Xiao Ling into the blacksmithing workshop, he saw Xiao Han standing in the hall. Not far away, there was a 30-meter-tall black cauldron wrapped in a layer of 5-colored spiritual light. Intense flames kept rising from the cauldron. The hale and hearty third elder with a head full of white hair stood in the air above the black cauldron. He continuously sent out beams of light with his palms, injecting vast magic energy into the cauldron. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling looked up at the third elder. When they saw that he looked 10 years younger, brimming with energy and vast magic energy, they immediately revealed expressions of disbelief. If they had not seen it for themselves, the two would not have believed that the third elder had undergone such a drastic change in just one night. This was simply inconceivable. At the same time, Xiao Han shouted with a dignified expression, "What are the two of you still standing there for? Don't waste time. Quickly hand over the materials and let the third elder refine the magic treasure for you." Only then did the two recover their wits. They quickly took out the tailbone and eyeball of the cloud-mottled beast, as well as several sets of metal materials from their spatial rings. Xiao Han waved his hand and sent out a beam of 5-colored light, sweeping up all the materials and handing them to the third elder. "All right, you can go out now. Before the Holy Fire Festival starts, come here to collect your magic treasures." Xiao Han waved his sleeves and said with a dignified expression. Xiao Chen and Xiao Ling were filled with excitement. They immediately bowed and expressed their gratitude to Xiao Han and the third elder. After that, the two left the blacksmithing workshop, filled with joy and anticipation. On the way back to his residence, Xiao Chen still had a smile on his face. After he obtained the magic treasure, he would be able to suppress everyone in the Holy Fire Festival and become the champion. However, Xiao Ling's beautiful eyes flickered. A crafty look flashed in her clear eyes. She pretended to be calm and said, "Xiao Chen, you can go back first. I have something to do and will be leaving for a while." With that, she turned to leave. Xiao Chen immediately stopped and asked in confusion, "Little sister Ling, where are you going?" "The night after tomorrow is the Holy Fire Festival. The third elder is refining magic treasures for us. We should prepare well." "Oh, you must be looking for young Master Tianqing, right?" Xiao Linger instantly frowned and glared at him angrily. "What does it have to do with you? Go prepare yourself." As she spoke, she quickly ran away, and her figure quickly disappeared at the end of the bluestone path. Xiao Chen stood in place and looked at her back as she left. He felt a little sour in his heart. He muttered in a somewhat desolate manner, why does little sister Ling Er look like she is going to meet her lover? Did she really fall in love with that guy? If that's the case, I wonder how many young disciples will be heartbroken. As soon as he finished speaking, he shook his head with a bitter smile, turned around, and left. Xiao Ling asked around in Tingfeng Garden and found out that Ji Tianqing and Xiao Han lived in Pine Tree Courtyard. This courtyard had a quiet and secluded environment and was filled with spiritual energy. It was one of the best courtyards in Tingfeng Garden. Only the most distinguished people could live in it. Normally, juniors like Xiao Ling and Xiao Chen did not have the qualifications to come here. When she entered Pine Tree Courtyard and stood outside Ji Tianqing's room, she was immediately stopped by two guards. One of them bowed to Xiao Ling and said expressionlessly, "Miss Ling, our clan's distinguished guest lives here. Please do not disturb him." Xiao Ling had already expected this. She said seriously, "I don't need you to remind me. I am here on Uncle Xiao Han's orders to find Big Brother Tianqing to discuss some matters. Move aside." She was exceptionally intelligent and had a nimble mind. Lying was naturally easy for her. The two guards looked at each other, not daring to confirm if her words were true or false. After hesitating for a moment, they could only step back and move aside. "Miss Ling, please." Xiao Ling revealed a faint smile. She pushed open the door and entered the room. The room was very quiet. There was no one in the spacious and bright living room. There was also no one in the side bedroom and study. Xiao Ling walked around the room, but she did not see Ji Tianqing anywhere. Big Brother Tianqing clearly lives here. He should be in his room. Where did he go? She muttered doubtfully. Suddenly, a calm and gentle voice sounded from behind her. "Miss Ling, are you looking for me?" This voice sounded abruptly and right next to her ear. It immediately gave Xiao Ling a fright. She suddenly turned around and saw that Ji Tianqing had appeared behind her without her knowing. He was so quiet that she did not notice him at all. Ji Tianqing still looked the same as before. He was wearing a white robe, his long hair reached his waist, and his entire body emitted a transcendent and noble aura. The corner of his mouth held a faint smile. At that moment, Xiao Ling looked at him from such a close distance and was actually somewhat stunned. Only when Ji Tianqing stretched out his hand and waved it in front of her eyes did she come back to her senses. She hurriedly lowered her head. Her expression was slightly embarrassed and shy. She explained somewhat uneasily, "Big Brother Tianqing, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disturb." Ji Tianqing nodded slightly. He still had a calm expression as he said, "It's fine. I just finished recuperating. If you have something to say, just say it." Xiao Ling was suddenly speechless. Her heartbeat sped up again. She did not know what to say. Previously, she was only agitated for a moment and wanted to find Ji Tianqing to thank him in person. But now that she saw Ji Tianqing, her mind went blank and she forgot about this matter. Ji Tianqing could not help but reveal a smile when he saw that she was usually mischievous but slightly stupid in front of him. "Miss Ling, you probably came to find me to thank me in person, right?" Right. Xiao Ling only remembered the reason after he reminded her. She hurriedly nodded and said, "I just wanted to thank Big Brother Tianqing in person." Ji Tianqing said with a calm expression, "It's nothing. You don't have to thank me." Xiao Ling was at a loss again. Her beautiful eyes looked around, but she did not know what to say. However, Ji Tianqing looked at her with a smile, waiting for her to get down to business. This made her feel even more awkward and uneasy. Finally, Ji Tianqing took the initiative to speak. "Miss Ling, this is my first time in the Xiao clan. I have nothing to do and want to take a stroll outside. Can you be my guide?" Xiao Ling's eyes immediately lit up. She hurriedly nodded and said, "Of course I'm willing." It's Ling Er's honor to be able to serve Big Brother Tianqing. She happily agreed and hurriedly brought Ji Tianqing out of the pine tree courtyard and strolled around Tingfeng Garden. The two of them chatted as they walked. It did not take long for them to walk around Tingfeng Garden. Hence, under Ji Tianqing's request, Xiao Ling'er brought him out of Tingfeng Garden. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.